Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, we're to another TV episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who is singing Christmas songs with me tonight?
Hello, bro. It is Kenneth Sanity, bro, here to talk about things with you today, bro.
I'm Bill Tucker from A Gamer Looks at 40. I'm not following that. That was lovely.
And I'm Blair Farrell from comicbookvideogames.com, and the greatest Christmas gift you can give any character is plot armor.
Yes.
So we are here to talk about, which again is a perfect Christmas show. I remember thinking that a year ago, and I actually kept to my idea. Thank you, Mike. Good job, Mike. You kept to an idea. We are here to talk about Hawkeye, the 2021 TV series, which I'm assuming we are only getting the one season, and that's it. I'm assuming this will never have a second season, which I don't want it to, so I'm not complaining. Not that I didn't like it. It's just I'm okay with these shows being one thing and then moving, and then, they serve their purpose.
Okay with some of these shows doing that.
Yes, I mean, Loki is getting a second season. That deserves it, but this show to me really feels like it was there to kind of send off Jeremy Renner, and then Kate Bishop will take over from here, or Haley Stein. That's how I feel about this show.
I agree.
I was going to ask about that, and at the end, I guess. But so is she now going to be the new Hawkeye? Because they never gave her a fancy superhero name.
Her name is just Hawkeye.
Okay, so she's going to be the new Hawkeye. Okay.
Because that was like the ending, because she was like, I'm going to, let's like Lady Hawk. And he's like, no. And then he's like, okay, and how about you just use, and then it cuts, and then just the words Hawkeye come up.
See, I didn't read into it like that. I'd like to see them as a partnership, right? But it makes more sense where he finally says, screw this. I've had enough. I want to stay home with my family, which is, and we'll talk about kind of the themes of this and where it goes. But I honestly, I'm like, is her name going to be like Bullseye? Because the last shot is of a target, right? An archery target. So I'm like, yeah, is she going to be Bullseye or something?
Taken.
And then, is it really? Oh, so
yeah, there's a villain, Bullseye.
Yeah, of course, there's 7,000 Marvel characters that actually matter. Yeah, I'm sure there is one. So I decided to save that for the show. Didn't really know.
Does anyone in this universe even need code names anymore? Because all of them pretty much are public servants at this point.
True. It's very true.
I think Peter Parker is the only one with a genie back in the bottle, and everyone else is just like... It's a big Phase 4 problem for me, is that like the entire world treats these stories like they also have access to Disney Plus. Like everyone seems to know everything, as if like Avengers Endgame wasn't a thing that happened. It was a movie that came out in theaters.
Okay. I can counter this. There is absolutely, I'm sure, an entertainment network in this world. And they have like Behind the Avengers or something. There are all sorts of celeb reality, like deep dives on their lives. And there are entire shows probably dedicated to superhero gossip and who's seeing who. And, oh, look what so-and-so wore to Black Widow's funeral, stuff like that.
True, but like we'll get into it with this show. Like, and it bothered me with Black Widow in the post-credit scene where... Like, I know who did a thing. It's like, how did you know? There were 3 people there. One of them died, and the other was a ghost.
Well, it's actually, I kind of side with Kenneth on this one, because I like the fact that the MCU kind of removes the artifice, right? That kind of, they're mysterious cloaked figures in the night. I like the fact that they're celebrities. I kind of agree with that. I think it provides the shows and the movies the freedom to just be there. And I also like the way people react to them as celebrities. Like, oh, you're Hawkeye. I know exactly who you are. I have an action figure for sure. Like, there are people collecting MCU action figures just like we do. Exactly. So, and it also allows us to self-insert a little bit, like how would we react if a Hawkeye showed up? It does make for silly moments, though, like when they're fighting in Rockefeller Center and not a single police officer shows up. Not one cop. You realize Manhattan's not that big geographically. Like,
I don't know that.
But they are all white, so...
This is... Listen, oh, man.
I would say shots fired, but that equates to shots not fired.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's called, yeah, let's be honest here. Come on now. It's very fair. But it does make for silly moments, which, again, that was not lost on me as they're fighting, as they knock down the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, which is like top 3 iconic holiday things in, I don't know, the country. They cut the damn thing in half, and all of a sudden, not a single police officer shows up. 300 people in tracksuits. How did you get 300 tracksuits? I don't think I could go online and find 300 tracksuits in bulk. So again, silly stuff like that happens. However, I'm willing to make that trade. I'm willing to trade that.
Okay.
All right, look, the tracksuits obviously came from overseas. It was a big order made from a garment factory. They found it on Wish.com, which is why they don't quite look like Adidas tracksuits.
Wish.com tracksuits.
Hey, you know what?
Wish.
That actually tracks. I can. I've ordered shit from Wish. It tracks.
How many tracksuits have you ordered from Wish,
No
there, Mike
tracksuit.
Albertin?
But I have ordered
Oh,
stuff
okay.
from Wish. Actually, I have a really cool rug I got from Wish that's like Eevee and Pokemon stuff, and it actually looked as like it did in the picture. But I've seen Wish's strange place.
Oh, it
You
certainly
never know.
is. I was going to say that it's Wish.com tracksuits for Wish.com thugs. Boy, oh boy, are they useless. Man, return them.
Hey, I love them.
Oh, they're great comedy, but they are not effective.
They are terrible. Oh, I'm just happy that this show does not go the bro way as much as the comic does,
That's why this podcast will, bro.
which is fine. I also I've said on this show before, I'm a big fan of Hawkeye, as a character. In the MCU, I don't like him as much,
How dare
I
you.
want to say, because I just there's something about him that I just don't enjoy as much but I feel like this show did a good job of really making me care about Hawkeye more than I ever had before. And the fact that this show starts off with him at a Christmas play, which is essentially PTSD for him because he's watching a play called Rogers about when the Avengers fought, the T'Chari in 2012. And it's just like, I get it. Like, some people are like, well, that's kind of insensitive. I think about it. It's been like 15 years or so in their world because of the blip and everything. Like, yeah, I mean, we have stuff about terrible times that happened in our history too.
Have you seen Love and Thunder yet?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay, so what's worse, Rogers the musical or a Thanos themed ice cream parlor?
Oh, it's Infinity Cones, 100%.
Yeah, Thanos.
I let me now publicly state that again. I've said this on the show before. I spend a good amount of time in New York, living there. I'm from the Northeast, northern New Jersey, and I have seen my fair share of musicals in my day. I've seen probably 15 or so, which is more
Nice.
than most.
That's a lot.
I like musicals. One of my secret dreams was to do musical theater. So that kind of thing is right in my pocket. And I've seen some cheesy ones, 42nd Street, and I've seen The Producers, which is actually pretty good. A Chorus Line. Those really cheesy ones that you go to like the discount line, the TKTS line, the day of and just get random ticket for half off. I've done that many times in my life. And I sat there thinking, would I go see Rogers the musical? And I thought about it, and right after my answer was no. I don't think I could go see this. And then that damn song was in my head for 3 days, and I'm like, damn it, I probably would. I probably would go see Rogers the musical. I'm just a sucker for big, cheesy, corny Broadway. But
it wouldn't have that effect on you if you weren't somebody who had went through all that terribleness. And that, I think that's, one thing about it. It's that,
That's a good point.
for him, it, more trauma also because he's still this movie, the show really shows he's really suffering what happened to Black Widow at the end of Endgame. And so am I.
Oh.
I am too, sir. I am
Yeah,
too. Still upset.
you can do. Well, here's a question: how far after the blip was this?
Did they ever say?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because
Gotta be a
I
few
think
years. Yeah.
a lot of things, Phase 4, there's just so much of it. And
Yes, there is.
I think they've said like certain things take place before certain things. So it's hard to say. So, I don't know.
They do
Yeah.
make a comment saying that it's been a few years since Ronan has been cited.
Yes.
And Ronan
but
doesn't go
Ronan
away
was
till
operating during the blip too.
Yeah. So my guess is it's been at least a few years.
So then my question then is: so if this took place, let's say everyone's back. Obviously, everyone's back. We've established that. And if it takes like 3 years after, let's just say 3 or 4, that's I agree with you now, Mike. Now I would not see it because it's too fresh in their minds. Like evidently they've rebuilt New York in 3 years after half the buildings were destroyed by giant space slugs. So, or whatever the hell it was, or everyone's blipped, right? So it's been rebuilt. Like that will almost be like 9/11 the musical. Like no one wants to see. Now.
Good point.
Well,
9/11 the musical.
As someone who is from the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, Come From Away is about people from America who were diverted to Gander Airport during 9/11, and that's huge.
Fair. Okay.
But I don't know how, because I can't remember when Come From Away officially launched, but I mean, it's longer than but I guess in the Avengers timeline, so if the Avengers is 2012, and then there was a blip for 5 years, you're looking at at least 2023, 24, 25. So that's 13 years post the Chitauri invasion.
Yeah. And according to director Rhys Thomas, this takes place 2 years after everybody came back.
Interesting.
Okay, that's not... Okay,
not a lot.
2 years... No, but it makes sense why he's still suffering and people are trying to move on from it, too.
Well, also remember, too, is that we're spending so much time on the damn musical, by the way. I'm sorry I brought this up. We also remember, too, the musical is about them fighting the Chitauri, really. I mean, that's what it's about. Yeah. So if that was 10 years ago, then I could see that for sure. And boy, oh boys, and the post-crediting, the final scene is that the full song, which I'm so glad the full song is in there, the full production. It made me very happy. I laughed so hard throughout it. There is so much New York wankery in that. There and that is how every Broadway play is. It's all New York is the best. And you're like, aren't you glad you visited? It's all for the tourists, that's making rat jokes and it smells. If you live there, you're like, I'm aware. I know. I have mouse traps everywhere. I know. Thanks, New York musical. That's cute for the couple that's in here from Sheboygan, but that's not cool for me. You have to deal with that nonsense. It was very, very on the nose. Wait, don't tell me someone here is from a Sheboygan. I just made that up.
It's a Wisconsin city.
But I am from Wisconsin.
So am I, but I don't.
Is that where Wisconsin's? Is that where Sheboygan is?
Actual city
I have no
in
idea.
Wisconsin.
I pulled that out because it's for me in my awful New York East Coast bias. It's a silly name. I'm sorry.
It is a silly name, but yeah, it's a Wisconsin city.
Ken, you're more than welcome to come to New York and enjoy our wonderful smelly city. It's perfect.
I was
actually
planning to coming to New York probably this summer. Actually, I've never been.
Summer.
Okay.
Summer in the city is especially pungent. I'm just letting you know. I'm just letting you know.
I want to go at Christmas time now. After watching this show, I was looking at my wife. I'm like, we got to go to New York someday I'm like, you would love it in Christmas time. We're just stay there for a few days. You see the tree. We'll do a few things and get the hell out of there. But you'll love it. So.
Man, it's great. Ice skating at Bryant Park. And she mentions the Union Square Holiday Village where you have all these shops and vendors, real stuff. Everything in this show is very, very accurate with some exceptions, like her apartment. Come on now. Listen, downstage somewhere in California. That is not a thing. But you should come, man.
Tickets to the Nutcracker Ball.
Sure, you can do that at Lincoln Center. They have it every year. Whatever. What's the Nutcracker thing called? I can't remember. I've seen it. I've been there.
I just know that this show made me want to go to New York more than I really have any. I'm trying to go to different cities throughout this country and do stuff besides just stay in one place.
Yeah, it's New York. New York at Christmas is magical. I try to go at least every couple of years when I'm in town to visit family for Christmas. Okay. We'll take a trip into the city. We're going to do that this year. We'll see the tree and all that fun stuff. It's great.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to do my best to make that happen in a couple of years. I'm going to New Mexico this year, but.
Can I tell an extremely quick story and then we'll move on? It's completely unrelated. We'll do this for 3 hours. Sorry.
That's fine.
When many years ago, I was working in Jersey and very, very close to the city, East Rutherford, which is where MetLife Stadium is if you're a football fan. And we had some coworkers from Fargo, North Dakota come into town. And one of the managers at one of the branches, his partner was at the time one of the theater managers at the Majestic, which is where they do Phantom of the Opera. I don't know if they still do it Phantom at the Majestic, but that's what it was. So he tells this couple, hey, go into the city on Thursday night, ask for JR or whatever her name was, ask for him, and he'll set you up with seats. He'll just walk you in. He puts down a couple of chairs in the upper mezzanine, front row upper mezzanine, which is $150 ticket. each. Sit there, watch a show, enjoy yourself for free. And I've done this before. They set up like 4 chairs for us and boom, sit and have fun. So the next day we go and I ask them, so, hey, how was Phantom? And they're like, we didn't go. Why? Why didn't you go? It was a free ticket. They're like, we took the train in, we got out, looked around, got scared and went back. They got out of the train station. Again, this is like Grand Central Station. This is like middle of Times Square. This is like obscene amount of lights. They're from Fargo, North Dakota. They've never seen anything close to
that
this.
Makes complete sense.
And that it just freaked them out. So they just turned around and went back to, because their thing was, and this is before like GPS on phones. This was way ago, like 15 years ago, easy. And they just didn't know what to do with themselves. They were afraid they were going to get lost. They were afraid they were going to get mugged. It was like November, cold, and it's just overwhelming when you step out of that. I'm pretty sure it was like maybe the PATH train or something. I don't know. But anyway, they freaked out and went home. So went back to the hotel. So yeah, but don't do that, Mike Albertin and Kenneth.
No, I wouldn't be allowed to. My wife would be like, no, we're going. So
just soldier on.
Yeah, I went to Vegas and I did Vegas-y stuff and ran around and explored a bit, even though I was like, I don't go back to a hotel room. But no, I get that.
Don't buy a dirty water dog. Don't do that. They're gross. And I don't care what people say. Oh, it's fine. No, it's not. Go away. Don't do that.
How is a dirty water dog?
There's like little food carts, these little hot dog carts that are sprinkled around the city, especially around Times Square. They sell hot dogs. And the water hasn't been changed since the, late 90s. So you don't want to. It's so gross. Don't eat those things.
I wouldn't plan on it, but
people do. It's a very touristy thing that people do because they say they think you have to. You do not.
I mean, I did eat a hot dog in Chicago when I visited, so I had Chicago dog.
Hot dogs are just lips and assholes. Come on, grow up.
It was so
fair point. They are pretty good.
Okay.
Not gonna lie.
So back to Hawkeye. Another thing I want to say, I like the fact that this show does a lot about trauma, PTSD. Like the whole way you're introduced to Kate Bishop is her seeing the first thing you see her during 2012 when she's in New York in a fucking penthouse apartment, and you see her, or condo, maybe is the more correct word, but you see her witnessing Hawkeye, saving, fighting aliens, and her dad dies. Like you already start the show with trauma that she went through that affects her whole life because she lost her father at a young age through a traumatic event.
Just a reminder, this is a Disney show, but go on.
Yes, but still, I mean, well, I guess they always, but yeah, it just starts off with that. I mean, and that plays such a big part in everything she does that inspired her to do everything. I mean, this is what inspires her to become an archer, which inspires her that ends up on this whole adventure that she ends up on is all because of what he did in 2012. And I like that. I also like how, you have Hawkeye, you find out early on he has a hearing aid, and he's like, well, they're like, what happened? He's like, well, and it just shows scenes from all the different, stuff he's been in. Like, well, that makes perfect sense. Like, the guy's been beating the shit out of, and he's just a regular guy.
Yeah, and I know this is a thing in the comic. We talked about it.
Yes.
Before, but I really just don't, appreciate how there was no, gradual lead up. It was just like, oh, yeah, by the way, Hawkeye is hard of hearing now. And they, press the death button.
Yeah.
I felt like there should have been
they choose to cherry pick from My Life as a Weapon without using any real context of what the story is about.
Yeah. But it was kind of nice seeing some of the stuff from My Life as a Weapon on the screen.
It is, but I feel it's the wrong Hawkeye. This is I really hate being on this show now because I feel I'm going to be the only one who's down on this show because
it's fine.
I didn't like it. I was super excited to see it I read most of the Matt Fraction run. I definitely from the start I absolutely fell in love with it. I was so excited. I remember when they announced Daredevil on Netflix. I was like, man, I just want to see a Hawkeye show that's like this, that adapts that in this style. But then I think and when in relation to one another, but in Age of Ultron, it's like Hawkeye's family was introduced. So he's like a family man. So you can't have that kind of crappy, single, deadbeat, divorced Hawkeye living in a crappy apartment building. That Hawkeye doesn't gel with this Hawkeye. And it's very weird to try and adapt that story for a character that it doesn't work with.
But I have to I did again. This is coming from somebody who doesn't read. I've never, again, I've said this on the show 100 times. I think I've read 3 comic books and then a bunch
don't
of
read that Hawkeye run. So
Yeah,
I read the whole thing. I hated it, but that's in there.
Yeah, I think I've read 3 comic books to completion in my life. So I remember it's kind of like the Mario movie. These movies are not made for you, or these shows are not made for you, really. Not anymore. Not anymore. They're gonna cherry pick, like you said, things from different books and different personalities to flavor it. So the flavors for you, but the meat of the cake, the meat of the cake is not really for the comic book reader anymore. It's for the casual viewer who likes the MCU and wants to see those stories continued. So no offense, it's not. And again, it would be nice if it was more for you. And that stinks, the fact that this book that they're adapting doesn't translate. Like, it's just, it can't be that character. But I really like the familial stuff. I like the fact that he's sick of this shit. He doesn't want to do this anymore. And now he's thrown back into this situation when all he wants to do is be with his family at Christmas. And that's such a pure motivation. And again, as a dad, I connect with that a little more. I'd probably be in the same boat. But that as a driving factor, I think really moves this along personally. So I will be sympathetic. I that sucks that this doesn't track with the stories that you like. And so I apologize if I was dismissive of that.
In contrast to that, I would say, yeah, I get that. But so Captain America the Winter Soldier is nothing like Ed Brubaker's Captain America the Winter Soldier storyline. But it honors it enough that I absolutely love that movie. Right. And I like how you feel like the motivation of him wanting to get out of here is the through line, because I think this show's problem is that it doesn't have a through line, and it's very hard to enjoy it when the main character doesn't want to be there. Because that's how I feel when I watch this show, where it's just Hawkeye doesn't want to be part of the Hawkeye show. He would rather be doing something else. So it's if you don't want to be there, what investment do I have for you to keep watching this?
I would counter that. I'm sorry, Ken, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, damn, but you're not wrong.
I feel like Renner was done with this character too.
Oh, I think that's 100%. And I would counter that that's why you have the plucky, Haley Steinfeld, or how I think is how you pronounce her name.
Yeah.
That's why you have the plucky Kate, who wants to be here so desperately bad. So I think that contrast is really good and interesting. And it's a classic almost because this is kind of like a buddy cop movie almost, where you have that grizzled veteran and the plucky go-getter. And I think that dynamic really works for me. Again, I just think that motivation of and he wants to save the day. He is a hero. He's a reluctant hero. He doesn't think he's a hero. Again, like you said, Mike, you and him are still mourning Black Widow's demise. Yes. He gets that thrown in his face when Florence Pugh shows up. So it's, I for me personally, I really dug the dynamic, and maybe it's because I don't have a strong enough connection with the comics, even though I do know, I like to think I know the MCU pretty well at this point. Thanks, Mike. Yeah. So no, I think it's just different opinion, different tastes. That's fair.
No, I mean, if you enjoyed the comic, I completely can see it, because this is not really like the comic at all. I mean, I enjoyed some of that comic, but I read that whole run, and I remember it got to me after a while. But this is when again, the MCU is very it's notorious for that, where it'll take some things and make its own, and it completely does its own thing with stuff all the time. Sometimes, I mean, with the show, we have a lot less bro than we would have had in the comic. That's for sure.
Which is a goddamn shame.
I almost want to read this comic now just to get that different perspective. But again, that would require me to, read.
Yeah. If I can get you digital version of that comic without any issue, it's just that
I would be interested in checking it out to see the difference. Okay. Yeah, I would be actually.
It's a real, the start with the Tracksuit Mafia, it's such a very small story. It's just almost like Hawkeye, because the whole point of and what's so great about this, at least because I'm not sure I've actually saw it to its conclusion, because I think I ran out of steam after a while, because I do that with a lot of comics and money and budgets and things like that.
It gets bad.
But the whole point is, what does this guy who's an Avenger, what does he do just in his day-to-day life? And it's just him living in this apartment building and dealing with his neighbors, and then there's just these Tracksuit Mafia guys who are just trying to just be assholes essentially, and just fighting them off. Like, it's not a grand scale like story or a murder mystery. I mean, this isn't really either, because I mean, there's not really much of a mystery.
No, there's no mystery in this.
No.
Yeah, so it's very much just like a small scale story, and him dealing with like being on his own and kind of being like a deadbeat guy, and it's fantastic. At least the start of it, anyways.
I mean, I get why they didn't do that on this road, because this Hawkeye is much different. I did find it funny how in Age of Ultron they make it seem like no one knows he has a family, and here they all know about his family. Like, well,
now
again,
they
this
do.
is yeah. Now they do, right?
yeah. And I like the idea that he's facing the trauma of what he did as Ronin, because he killed a lot of fucking people as Ronin for no reason,
Yes.
just to kill him.
Whoa. No reason?
Well, okay, they broke the law. That's the reason.
It was a vigilante, right? Yeah.
Plenty of good reason. I can point you to at least, okay, Punisher, Judge Dredd. I can keep going.
I don't like either. I like Punisher. Okay, I don't like Judge Dredd.
Moon Knight.
Moon Knight.
How?
I mean, we talking not so great television Moon Knight, or pretty?
I haven't read a Moon
interesting?
Knight comic yet. I'm supposed to for the show because Ken's been trying to get me to. One day I'm going to soon, but I have not yet. I feel like now I will be soon.
Read from the dead.
I will gladly do it. I have nothing else. Nothing else to do but record. I feel like so. I will. That's why I live.
Now
Yeah.
y'all mentioned the condo that Kate and her mom live in. What's the mother's name? Eleanor. Yeah. So you mentioned that condo. So they actually give the address. I think they say it's 46 Park. That I don't think is an actual condo. It may have been at some point, but I think it's commercial building now.
Oh.
That is an extraordinarily expensive area. That's the Murray Hill area of New York, which is, I think, maybe second to the Upper East Side. So it is accurate in those buildings would have giant apartments like that. I asked my wife about it. I'm like, James, I've never seen is that a thing where like a condo in a New York building would take up an entire floor? And she's like, yeah, that's she's been to one. She went to some sort of thing at a very, very rich person's home. And yeah, that was actually a thing. And she wasn't watching it with me. The way she described it was kind of like a wraparound with two doors where it had like all the stuff you would see there. So it wasn't kind of like a penthouse, like you were saying, Kenneth.
Oh, okay.
But again, that could exist. I don't know. But giant condos like that do exist. I can tell you, I had a friend who used to live on Central Park West. His building was right next to the Gozer building, Ghostbusters. The Gozer building, I think, is 65 Central Park West. He was 55. And he had a 14th floor apartment. We used to watch the Macy's parade go down there, and he had like, catered thing and the whole. I know exactly how much he spent to sell that apartment or condo in 10 years ago. And that is nowhere near the opulence of that place. So he sold that condo for multiple millions of dollars on Central Park West. Multiple. I'm not friends with him, so I don't care anymore because he's a terrible person. But he's a terrible person. I didn't realize he was a terrible person when I was friends with him. Now I know. Oh boy. He sold that for like a little over $3 million, and it was probably 1,400 square feet. And so that place has got to get like 10. I don't know. So it's a very ridiculous sort of apartment. Almost doesn't make sense for New York, but it's actually a really kind of a thing. So there you go.
Okay.
That just puts into perspective how well Bishop Security is doing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Kate could literally be anything, and this is what she's choosing. So
And it's interesting too because it's clear that Kate comes from means. One of the first things she mentions when she sees her mom is, she destroyed the clock tower at her college, which is a very, very funny scene. I don't know how that would happen, but I'm sure more than 3 ropes secure that thing, but whatever. I made for a fun moment. So she cut off her credit cards. And at that moment, most people are like, ugh. But the show does set up some pretty goodwill for her. So you can kind of absorb that. And may I say, Haley Steinfeld is ridiculously good in this. Like she is fantastic. Regardless of what you think about the show itself, she's wonderful.
I really enjoy her. I really enjoyed her, in this show, and I look forward to seeing what else she does as the show as she continues as Kate Bishop. I'm excited to see where it goes because she's going to be Hawkeye for a while, easy. So that's what they're up to. That's why they're picking young actors and actresses.
She's just got big golden retriever energy, and I'm here for it.
That's very good. Yep.
Like
Just
she's
eager. Yeah.
just like, yeah, man, I'm just glad to be here. And
Yeah.
this is a big departure from Kate Bishop in the comic. Like the Kate Bishop from the comic isn't all hero worshipy as much. And, you know, she's a little more capable in the comic. A lot more capable in the comic, actually.
She's not old. Well, she's a little older, I think, because I know she's like a detective, or maybe I'm just thinking the Avengers video game.
No, she's not a detective in the comic. We read it not too long ago. But she is older, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. She's older. There's a whole will they, won't they energy between her and Hawkeye that I'm really glad didn't come up in the
Yeah,
show.
me too.
Same, because she's
Even in
young,
the comic.
But at the same time, I'm also sad that we didn't get that wonderful scene with the Shield Amex Black card from the comic. I'm really kind of bummed about that.
That would have been nice.
But, you know, you couldn't. There's a lot of stuff in the book that could not translate because these characters do not exist in the MCU yet.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have, you know, Madame Mask show up.
She
Because-
is in the MCU a little bit, but I don't know if it counts anymore. She's in the Peggy Carter show, season 2.
Oh, I never did actually get around to
You
watching
should
that.
watch those. But I'm assuming at this point those are no longer canon of any
Yeah.
sort. They're forgotten.
Because like Mockingbird was a big character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. back when that used to kind of talk to the movies, but now I think that's just its own thing now as well.
I'm pretty sure those are all just gone at this point. Like they just like Daredevil and stuff like that. I don't think that's ever going to be considered part of the.
Oh, I think
MCU.
Daredevil is easy. Like, why not Daredevil?
Yeah, because I think Born Again is going to rewrite that whole thing that the Netflix stuff didn't happen. Is my guess.
I don't think it will.
See, like the Netflix stuff is so unimportant to the grand Marvel machine. Like in Spider-Man, because I think about Spider-Man Homecoming, because Peter Parker is investigating people who have alien weaponry that they're selling, and Tony Stark's like, yeah, we know that's below our pay grade. That's why I told the FBI. The Avengers doesn't care. So do you think that like the Avengers care about Wilson Fisk taking over a few blocks of New York real estate? Like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, I mean, Daredevil season 3 is technically a remake of Daredevil season 1 in a lot of regards. So,
Yeah.
like, I don't think that's going to be. I'll think all that still counts. Like, they
Okay.
wouldn't have put it on Disney Plus if it didn't.
You're probably right. Okay, I was happy to go on Disney Plus because I want to rewatch them at some point. So
So Daredevil's on Disney Plus now?
Yes,
Okay.
all of them. Jessica Jones, Luke Cage.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Defenders.
I've
also,
never
I
seen
assume?
any of them. Yeah, never seen any of them.
Defenders too.
Okay, good. I need to rewatch them all for the show too. So
What about
Oh, really?
Agents? What about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yes, actually.
And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I mean, the first season is a little bit rough. It gets pretty good towards the end. It gets really great. Like, they do Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, and it is awesome.
Ah, cool. I was reading something about that, and the article was bemoaning that Hawkeye, especially in the end with Hawkeye's wife, because evidently she's in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Yeah, I'm gonna say stupid things now because I don't really know.
No, she wasn't in the show, but she was
She
probably
wasn't in the
just
show,
an
but she
agent
was-
of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
Okay. So it's something how Hawkeye basically made Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. non-canon because of her Agent 19 or something. Can someone explain this to me? I don't know. I'm just speaking because I read a
I
thing.
think that's Mockingbird's designation.
Right.
Just like Sharon Carter was Agent 13.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was Mockingbird. And so they're saying since now she's Agent 19, how could she be Mockingbird? So now that makes Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. completely, because it definitely lingers on that Rolex with 19 on it. So clearly that was her thing, her watch.
Oh,
Which again, I don't, yeah. Again, this is me reading just, again at midnight, just reading articles about Hawkeye.
Just
And yeah,
one of
so I
this
don't know,
many-
theory.
Just one of
Okay.
this many shows plot lines that I can't really seem to commit to.
That's kind of what it was. It was like, is now Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now just not canon because of this little thing here? It's like,
I mean, I think Age Shield had no longer been canon since they kind of just went away from
You've
it a
mentioned
long time
this.
ago.
Yeah,
They
you've mentioned-
time travel before Tony Stark. Like they
do?
travel to the future and the past and jump around time long before Endgame.
Well, in season 2 of Agent of Shield, you have stuff that connects to, or maybe season 1. Season 1 had stuff like connected to Thor: Dark World, but then they start in Winter Soldier. But then they really get away from it and they don't reconnect. I don't think they really went back to it. I mean, I stopped watching it after season 2, or I got season 3 and I just stopped.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to, because in season 2, like they send out like inhuman pills all around the world, and no one in the MCU is like, hey, we have a bunch of superpower people who are just popping up everywhere.
Yeah, they don't.
Wait,
they don't
It
work
was
with it.
pills?
Well, there was something with like Terrigen.
Yeah,
I think some Terrigen crystals got loose in the water, and then they were somehow put into like fish oil pills or something, and then they were like it showed it going around the world, and essentially like some of the particulates from the Terrigen got in like generic fish oil pills that you would buy at the drugstore.
yeah, I know what he's talking about.
All right. I mean, I guess that's a way to get around the Terrigen mists, but what?
Well, yeah, Hawkeye, there's a couple things that I want to bring up. Like, I mean, I think because I do like the stuff where the whole idea, the reason he stays there is because the whole thing that starts off the show that gets Kate Bishop involved is she ends up at an auction in the bottom of this hotel that she's at, where they're selling stuff from the Avengers compound. You have Ronan's sword, you have Ronan's outfit, and she puts on Ronan's outfit, which then leads to her causing all the trouble that she ends up getting herself into.
Now, here's a bit of a question. So I can't remember why she had infiltrated this gala. I think it was to see what her new father-in-law was up to.
Yeah.
She didn't trust Jack, and I really like the character of Jack. He is, I love, especially towards the end when he gets all D'Artagnan and how about you, sir? You know, which is just wonderful. But I also love the dynamic of just her after losing her father, which you never fully get over that, right? I mean, she's probably at peace with it, but clearly not, because now her mom is, you know, truly in love with this guy who's read all the books and how to become a good stepdad, you know, and just seems shady. So his kind of little turn is pretty cool towards the end. But anyway, what were the assailants, the assassins, the people that break into the silent auction, the black auction? What were they there to get?
The watch.
The watch. Was that what it was? It was it was the watch. I could not figure out why the watch was so important.
And that's when I watched this show last year, and that was because I remember reading social media reactions and everyone was like, oh my God, I love Hawkeye. It's like my favorite. And I'm like, okay. But it's like when I watch this and it's like, it kind of kicks off with, okay, the grandfather, like Jack's dad, gets murdered. So you're like, okay, this show, it's a murder mystery. And then they just kind of forget that happens. Like it's just so exists in the background. And like Jack, they kind of paint as like, oh, he had the butterscotch candy, so he's obviously the murderer, even though like I'm sure he just had him in his pocket. Like they don't, you know, they have to kind of, they never really painted him as a villain other than he looks sketchy. Like they never show him taking like that call where it's like, what's he doing, or talking with some guy. Like you're meant to think that he is the villain,
well, he
and
also
like the murderer, but like the mom is the only one who ever does what the red herring is supposed to do.
he's also a supervillain from the comic.
No, he's an Avenger.
Swordsman's an Avenger?
Yeah. Well, if you'll indulge me for like a second.
Sure.
The swordsman is like he's just a guy who's good with a sword. Like he doesn't have a magic sword or King Arthur's sword. He was actually in a recent event called Empire, and like the character of swordsman died, and then somehow there's an alien plant species who just became him somehow and married Mantis.
Okay.
Like it is very weird. And then they have an event called Empire where he's like, oh, I'm a plant person and I can't believe I'm denying my plant heritage. I'm going to take over the world for the plant people. Like that's probably swordsman most like biggest claim to fame at this point.
Wow.
Sidebar ended.
No, that's fair. That sounds, I don't know, slightly terrible, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Is it good?
Empire was fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I for me, again, maybe just call me a basic bitch, but I think it did kind of hold its cards pretty well. I really did think he was going to be the end villain in it. You know, with the movie is a movie. I keep calling it a movie.
And
Sorry,
close enough.
I mean, it is.
I mean, I guess it is. I'm too used to being on here for movies. I think it's trying to set up these unreliable. Obviously, it's trying to set up red herrings. It's trying to trick the audience a little bit, lead them in the wrong direction. And since we like Kate so much, and she's easily likable, so within 15 minutes you like her. Like, it's just you're kind of rooting for her based on her backstory and everything else. She believes he's the villain, so you kind of go along with it too. I think it's kind of leading you along this path. So I don't know if it has to really set up kind of the mustache twirling, although it kind of does. He actually is. Actually, I shouldn't say that. He actually kind of is. You know, when you see the butterscotch, right? And
well, then he gets Ronan's sword. He steals it from the auction, which is fine.
Right.
But he has that sword. Like,
right. And actually, you kind of said when you think back on it, he's the collector. So sure, of course, he'd want Ronan's sword. That's amazing to have in your collection. So it all makes sense after the fact. But again, during the progress of the show, it really is setting him up as the villain. So when it switches over at the last minute, I had I should have known that. I had this like little moment of like, oh, why didn't I just see that? Maybe I was having too much fun.
Well, that's the thing, because like the show sets up, because it's about the murder of Jack's dad, and then it's okay. Now it's about Echo, who wants to kill Hawkeye, and then it's about Yelena, who wants to kill Hawkeye. So it just is like one story, and then it introduced another story, and then introduced another story. Because I remember watching this with my fiance by episode 5, and I was like, wasn't this show about a murder at the start? And now no one cares about the murder.
Armand, he was old. It's fine.
It keeps jumping because things keep happening to Hawkeye as he's trying to clean this up and prove. Because the whole thing is he just wants to prove to them. He's like, they're trying to kill. They think Kate Bishop is Ronan. He's like, she's not Ronan. Ronan's dead. Even though I don't know why he didn't just say, when he's talking to the trash suit, when they have him tied up to a freaking unicorn thing, just say, I killed Ronan.
It was that was very weird. Sorry, say again.
I thought he did, but I mean,
no, he
says sick brain last week.
Black Widow did it, and they're like, oh, that's convenient. The person who killed Ronan's dead. The person that killed Ronan is dead. Like, instead of just saying I did it, like I killed. Like,
well, I don't think I took that as, hey, he doesn't want to really admit it. Again, he does, because the entire point of this show, which maybe for me was good, for others maybe not, was him getting home and being done with this nonsense. But I do agree with you, Blair, because they completely paper over the whole murder. She gets called by an NYPD detective, and there's a whole scene of her bumbling around trying to dance around this conversation. And he says, oh, can you come into the office? You come into the station, 10 o'clock tomorrow? I'll be there. And they drop it completely. That's it. No more detective. I guess they figured out the murder without her help. Like, that's completely papered
that
over.
Was weird.
I was sitting there waiting, like, when is she going to go to the police station? I'm waiting for her to be interrogated by cop number 3.
Let that go, because it's a few episodes before, and when each episode is like one day, it's a few episodes before they arrest Jack.
They should be hounding her to they should be then visiting.
They would have been at her house or her work. They would have been there, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would have, they would have, persisted. I mean, they can't arrest her. She's not been accused of anything, but they would have, continued the line of inquiry. No, of course not. It's a murder of a Manhattan socialite. Like, that's page 6 material, and that's big deal. So
they killed a rich white man. That's very important. You know that.
Yes, exactly.
Especially in New York, I'm sure.
But when another rich white person does it, it has less importance. It's just like a regular murder at that point.
Right. Well, you see, the detective probably had all the stereotypes in their head. They figured, a person of color probably can't wield a sword, so it must have been, again, God, really, we're doing this now. Gravy. Well, you're
not wrong sometimes, unfortunately. Some people are fucking stupid.
Unfortunately. But, so I agree with that, Blair. They really do leave a lot of, again, I think the escalating, stakes is just, again, all in service of this through line of this being, we've had conversations about Christmas movies. What's a Christmas movie? What's not a Christmas movie? This is a Christmas show. Like that's
100%.
That is classic Christmas show. Got to get home to the fam. Like that's what this is. And I think to me that worked. And I could definitely see for a lot of people who just want to see a Marvel show about Hawkeye, doing Hawkeye things. So
yes. From the trailer, I was like totally down for this. Like I was so excited. Like this was the show I was waiting for. And I think about like this as I remember watching it because like episode 3 is like 30 minutes long and it kind of just ends. It's just like Jack's there at Hawkeye's throat with a sword. That's why everyone keeps jumping back and forth between TV and movie. So it's like this does feel like a movie that's just a little bit longer, especially like I watched it all pretty much last weekend. But now you have the Marvel Christmas show, but now you have the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, which, boy, that just slam dunks this. Because it is so excellent. Oh, my God.
Really?
So good.
All right.
Don't let any of the jokes, it's only 40 minutes long. Don't get any of the jokes spoiled for you. And then, I can't remember when this ended. It started in November, probably ended in December. And then January rolled around, and then Peacemaker came out, which was a show that very much embraced the medium of TV, where it started with a thing, and every episode was an episode. So I guess I'm just saying is like I just love James Gunn a lot.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah. I mean, as the show progresses, like they keep introducing new things. I think it's episode 3 when they finally introduce Echo. Echo, I know nothing about from the comic because I never really read Daredevil that much Daredevil or anything. Or I don't read that many comics to begin with. But I thought it was cool to have her in here. Is she a hero or a villain in the comic?
I think she started out as a villain, but I know she was in Brian Michael Bendis' new Avengers line.
Okay.
But she was part of the lineup of the Avengers, as there was an Avengers team that was a bunch of street level heroes like Spider-Man, Luke Cage, I think Daredevil eventually. I don't think they really did a lot with this character, which is probably why you don't know about them.
Yeah, that would. I mean, I liked having her in here. I liked the fact that they brought in, because she's deaf, which they make it, very clear early on. And I like that they had, other characters in here, and they do a good job of making her a very strong character, and I like that.
And I like how because she is a disabled actress in real life and an amputee. Yeah, she is deaf. She actually is an amputee. Jeremy Renner, I think, and Haley Steinfeld learned some basic ASL to help communicate with her, which I thought was really great. And when they break into her apartments, because I would have never thought about this, is you have the strobe lights going off, where it's like, oh yeah, this is I'm putting forth my ignorance right now in front of the world. I never would have thought that, yes, if you can't hear, then your alarm is going to be a strobe light that's going to alert you.
Yeah.
So that's something that I like because it's like, oh yeah, it made me think about something that I never would have before.
No, I'm the same way. I didn't really think about that either. That's also a really good scene too. Like when they break in her apartment and then they realize whose apartment they're in. Like I thought all that was really well done.
And that's that actress. This is her first role ever, and they've already given her own show.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Really?
We talked about this many times. Marvel is very good at doing stuff like that. Finding people and be like, here you go.
Yeah, wow. I enjoyed her character quite a bit. I like the idea of, again, a lot of the setups in Marvel are very kind of cookie cutter, dead parent, is a prevailing theme in these films and in these shows. I like the fact revenge can be a very shallow motivation, right? Because it's just anger distilled into a direction, if that makes sense. Like, I'm going to go out for revenge. Okay, cool. Why? I'm angry. Cool. Why? My dad died. Yeah, understand. That's strong. That's a strong motivation. Sure. But there's no depth to it. It sometimes tends to be. So I really found the depth in her motivation, even though it was this kind of thin revenge story. I'm going to kill Ronan, and then now be the end of it. Are the kind of connections she had with her partner, like with her whatever, I can't remember his name. I don't think his name was well established. Who ends up turning on her. I felt that was really good. And Kazi, thank you. So I felt that really helped. Again, I agree with you, Mike. I think a strong character who's disabled, it adds a lot of flavor and color to the actual overall, MCU as a whole, and to this film. Calling a film, forget. I'll just call it a film.
It's fine.
But I do think the motivation is a little thin. Again, I'm just not a fan of revenge stories unless there's more meat to it elsewhere. Right?
See, I thought it was thin. I didn't. I think when I watched it first, what I felt most about the character was there's not a lot there, but it's the same thing. Like when I watched Captain Marvel, I thought that movie was absolute trash, but then it's not for me. It's for a 10-year-old girl who's like, oh man, this is awesome. Look at this character. But I liked when Hawkeye talks to her at the end, and it's like, we're weapons and people point us in directions to kind of do things. So just point yourself, don't do it for anyone else. Don't let anyone just take advantage of you.
And I want to say when this show really takes off, in my opinion, it's episode 3 is fantastic. That's when you have the whole time where you kind of have brought together, this is when you first see Kate Bishop trying, being an archer. This is when you have Hawkeye really becomes a badass for the first time in the show, really. I mean, in my opinion, really, because they're in that warehouse and they break free and they just start kicking everybody's ass. I mean, in comical fashion too, because he's getting his ass handed to him by Echo also. And there's one part he falls in the ball pit and he shoves arrows in people's feet. I'm like, that's great. I really like that part.
It's the first real set piece.
Yeah.
Because I remember I'm sure Disney has more money to throw around than the CW superhero shows, but I remember listening to an interview with one of the producers and they were saying you save up your budget by doing drama and then do a big action scene. So I think episode 3 where they do the car chase is okay, we're going to save up our money for this because this is when they start doing actual Hawkeye stuff. And then they introduce the car chase and they bring in the trick arrows, which are really cool. You see the pin arrow, which is just awesome. I was not expecting that.
I love the trick arrow stuff. The pin arrow, I would agree with you. I didn't expect the pin arrow too. That was great. There were just so many cool scenes with the trick arrows and everything with that, and him not labeling anything, and then him getting his. Okay, there's one thing I have to talk about when he gets his hearing aid damaged, and all of a sudden they can't communicate because he can't hear anymore. It makes me think a lot. My son is now 15, but when he was little, he's also autistic. He didn't talk. He just didn't talk. And I remember so much, and that's when I really realized how much stuff was based, that we do as humans, or average people. I feel is that, we talk with, we expect talking and verbal, and there was none. There was no verbal communication. Really. He just didn't, and I remember he would interact with other kids, and he just wouldn't talk back to them when they said anything. He just wouldn't respond. And I remember them, and it made me think of that. It made me remind me of how much as humans we usually rely on verbal communication. No, that's what I want to say.
Yeah, I mean, 100% agree. And it also, when he loses his hearing aid, that sets up a lot of great character building beats because, again, throughout this entire thing, he's communicating with his kids and wife, who, by the way, I love the fact that his wife is fully on board with everything he has to do. And now it makes sense now that I know she's involved in a lot of this stuff. Again, clearly she is just as a casual observer, realizing, clearly she knows, something's going on. And she knows this job, how he communicating with his kids and his inability to talk to his son because he didn't have his hearing aid and Kate is kind of transcribing the conversation was so sad. I got a little tear. I gotta be honest.
I really like that scene.
Oh, it was wonderful. I got a little tear. And I also like too when he's taking on, and I had no idea the deaf woman, what her name was until y'all just mentioned it. I'm very bad at this sort of thing. I just am. I apologize. What's her name again? Echo. Thank you. Echo, when he's taking out Echo, it levels the playing field because again, as an archer, he's turning around and shooting people in the chest because he hears them coming and he doesn't even need to look at it. Right, the amazing behind the back no look shot is so cool. Come on now, that's just amazing. It kind of levels the playing field a bit, and it's a great scene. It's a good opening, and that car chase, I love that car chase. The way it opens with almost like that. I don't want to say a turn shot, but that 360 shot where all this action is happening around the vehicle and the camera is just circling and capturing everything going on at just the right moment. Cars going by, one car comes from behind, and then it flips out the window, and you see Kate with the bow ready to strike. That was a chef kiss cinematography. I mean, it was wonderful. So I love all that stuff in that episode, really.
I knew you would. When I saw that, I thought of you instantly. I'm like, this is Bill's thing.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't done any movies with like car chases, really, or not much, but I know you like stuff like that. It was just good seeing. It was a really good, I think, and I mean, if I remember right, that's also from the comics. There's an issue, like one of the early issues has that.
Yeah, it's like an issue 2 or 3. It's pretty early in where she's talking about how you really need to get labels, and that pays off later. She actually has a label maker like making the trick arrows. Because
she doesn't know which one is which. So funny. So good.
But also fixed that Solo thing where he doesn't bother to label stuff because he doesn't need to.
He made them. He doesn't really necessarily need to do that stuff. And I think this might be a good time to discuss their relationship, Hawkeye and Kate, where I think we meant again like a buddy cop, but has his softening to her and his realization he needs a partner, because again, for the longest time, Black Widow was his partner. Yeah, and so him recovering or slowly recovering from that grief in the realization that he does need somebody at his side, he does need somebody to have his back. And this girl, if not capable yet, she's pretty capable. She shows promise. She can be developed. And I think, like you said, again, clearly she's the new Hawkeye. So she'll probably end up being like the protege and really learning from the master at the farm. But I really like the way their relationship turns, and especially towards the middle part where he full out rejects her and is like, no, go home. This is not for you. I get it. You're good with the bow. Clearly you are, but you're not. This is not for you. And I really think their relationship at this point that's strained, it's starting to like turn a little bit to where they are partners.
Well, a lot of it,
the subway where he's like, for most of it, he's like, are you friends? Like, no. Like, are you partners? Like, we're barely acquaintances. Like, it just seems like this is just one of the things on my checklist I have to knock off. And I think like when they're on the subway and she's talking and then he starts saying like, oh, you did really good there or something. And that's the first moments.
Yep.
But then she like, I mean, where they're so strained because they can't really communicate, and she is getting it, but she can't say anything back. And the Christmas movie thing was also really great.
Oh, that scene. Okay, that scene in the apartment. I think that's a really when they connect, and like you said, the Christmas movie. He teaches her the quarter trick, which pays off later. Just everything they're doing together. I thought was so cool. Like and he's sad because he can't be with his family for Christmas. So here he is, just and it's just a really sweet moment when they're at that apartment. I really like that.
Oh, it's great. I mean, it's very, again, it's very kind of New York holiday. That's a pretty common thing. You get, a lot of people don't go home for the holidays. So you just get people together in a small apartment and you watch holiday movies and do goofy stuff and decorate a tree. Like, it's a very friend thing to do. And again, like we've been saying, it's a very good connection point where they're actually enjoying time together. I love the fact that this show does not even attempt at any sort of even a hint of like romantic kind of like that would have been misery, and that would have made me turn off the show and say, sorry, Mike, I'm gonna watch half of this show. I can't continue with this garbage. So I love the fact it's just partnership and friendship and finding friendship again around the holidays where you want to be around people for the most part. And so again, it's just super fun. I don't know why they have an old CRT TV. That seems a little too hipstery for my taste. Like,
the person also has a lot of groceries for someone who doesn't live there for most of the year.
This is very true.
I think it's like it's an older. I can understand it's like an older aunt, and it's probably just like, oh, because my nan probably had a CRT TV until a few years until she passed because she didn't care. So I can see this person like, yeah, I use this to watch the news. I watch a few movies because I think it said it's like, yeah, it's like an older relative who was like down in Florida for most of the year.
Yeah.
But the food thing, you are right on that one.
For sure. Well, Kenneth, what's your take on their relationship in this part of what's going on?
I really do think that their relationship is obviously the driving factor of this show. The chemistry between Jeremy Renner and Haley Steinfeld really is the best thing this show has going for it. if you don't have that chemistry, the show just doesn't work. Period.
Yeah,
And
I agree with that. Yeah.
the way it is, it's perfection, really. I mean, I want to see these two interact. Honestly wish there was more than 6 episodes, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is the load bearing piece of this show. Like this is the one that carries the most weight, and it's very successful. So for me, this is what carries it. And there's again all the other stuff I'm here for, the action and all that good stuff. That's what I'm here for. Again, basic bitch. But this definitely is that kind of tentpole, and this scene in particular is where we really see that glue start to really set, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, it's pretty great. And this is the moment where she asks, what was the best shot you ever took? And his answer is the one I didn't take. I think, is that correct? Did I get that one right?
Yeah.
And that's where, she kind of realizes a little weird. I don't think I would have made that connection that he was Ronin and he was the one who and that's kind of his regrets over what he did during the blip. So
my interpretation of that was, and I could be wrong, was that he, prior to being Avenger, he was a killer, and was he sent to kill Black Widow and then
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was.
So I thought that's what he was referring to.
I think you are probably right.
Her out, and
that's
then I
right.
didn't,
You're right.
and because we didn't, we had this relationship.
Yes, you're right. You're correct. That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, it's all about that. I mean, which is cool to see. Like, I think some other stuff I want to mention. Like, I mean, just so much. One thing that was pointed out to me in Shang-Chi is that Phase 4 is so much about grief too, and this show is another show all a lot about grief. About him, Black Widow, and everything else. Like, it's just interesting with that again. They keep going down that road.
It's like grief and legacy because they have to set up. I mean, Phase 4 is just kind of a mess all around, but I think it's essentially just like legacy because you have like the new Captain America, the new Hawkeye, I guess a new Loki and Sylvie, the Eternals, I guess, like the new Black Widow, which again, speaking of things that are holding them on their back, like Florence Pugh, once again, that girl must hit the gym so hard because her back holds up so many times.
Yep.
Like, the second she comes in here, and I forgot how amazing her introduction, well, not the fight introduction, but when they show the transition, because she's on a mission to like save one of the Black Widows, and the girl's like, yeah, I'm just living with my husband, like I'm not a Black Widow. And then she goes into the bathroom, and then it's like white, and then the color changes. Like I thought that was one of my favorite blip switches.
Oh my gosh,
it was so good.
Incredible. Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah.
I like that throughout Phase 4 we do get to really see what the blip did, because I remember being upset about it. Endgame happened, and you have Spider-Man Far From Home, which kind of does it, but not, in my opinion, very well. And then so it's nice I like how we get a lot more like explanation of what happened to people and how they reacted to it. A lot better.
Yeah, she's great.
It's really good.
The scene where she kind of saunters into her apartment, I love that because it's almost like the mob coming in and basically saying, look, you're overpowered. Like, hey, how you doing? Hey, come here. Let's have some macaroni and cheese together. Listen, you don't do it. If you don't back off, I'm going to kill you. So you might want to consider it.
That was a good scene.
It dragged a little bit for me. It kind of like the gears ground a bit. And I love their reaction in there.
More of that and less of a lot of everything that came before.
That's interesting. I felt it's a little too draggy, and it doesn't really go anywhere. It's another, I think, thread that just kind of goes away because to Florence and Yelena, she's not a threat. Like, she's not something to worry about. I'm gonna kill Cliff. That's what I'm here to do. You're going to be an annoyance. So unless you want to die, unless this is your goal in life, is to be murdered right before Christmas, you may want to leave. But I love that, again, this is my first time in New York. Ooh, again, she is so wonderful. Yeah, obviously, I think that supersedes anything I thought like a part of pacing and just kind of the scene. Oh, she's so freaking good.
Is that her regular voice? Or is that just the character's voice?
No.
Okay.
No, she's British.
I haven't seen her in anything else yet other than Black Widow and this. I need to watch other stuff, but I haven't yet.
Well, we're going to see Midsommar, right?
I'm going to make us do it one day, yeah.
Yeah, we're going
Soon,
to.
I
Again,
think.
I told you, it's not a big deal. Don't worry. It's bright and cheery and airy, and it's got lots of, it's fine. Flowers everywhere.
and
Don't
that's
believe his
like
lies.
going back to like my beef with people having knowledge of like where do they get it, because I guess like Elaine from Seinfeld somehow, like at the end of Black Widow, it's like, oh, Hawkeye killed Black Widow. Like, how do you know that? Like, I can understand some things, but like, how do you know that?
She didn't know. What she says to Yelena in the Black Widow was Hawkeye and Black Widow went together and only one returned.
Right.
Oh,
so she's
that's
making
what
an
it
assumption.
is?
She's just manipulating people is what she's doing.
How did she know that Hawkeye and Black Widow went together, though?
My guess is that she got debriefed from what happened in the
I
Avengers
think the
thing. Somebody
Avengers
talked.
must have news reports they put out. Like, they have to have press conferences explaining certain things.
I'm sure somebody would have talked in S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, the way I took it is either A, they're being recorded when they left, like there was stuff that was recording, in the compound that S.H.I.E.L.D. recovered afterwards, or somebody, told people S.H.I.E.L.D. what was going on, and she's essentially part of S.H.I.E.L.D. So that's how I took it.
Yeah, I guess. It's a very good point, y'all. I think, I have no idea how she would really know that. Like you say, Blair, maybe there's a press release. Maybe she's on a list somewhere. I know. And all this, you got the press release of how they were able to go to another dimension or wherever they were
like
and plunge themselves.
Pepper Potts has a press release where it's like, these two people went and got these stones. These people did this. And then Tony died and Captain America died. Just like at the start of Spider-Man, it's like, and that's the thing is Steve Rogers dead, or is it just like, are they saying that he's dead so everyone will leave him alone?
I think it's the latter. He's old. He's old now.
Yeah, he's Joe Biden.
Jesus Christ. No, I don't like that.
I don't like that.
Well, I mean, he just looks like he would blend in like, old grandpa at the park. Like,
Right.
no one would think like, oh, that guy is a Star-Spangled Man with a plan.
He can do this all day.
Oh, God, that was so funny. I can do this all day.
Okay. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's a good point. I really don't know, but I don't know. She was hired. Well, she was hired, right?
Yes,
she
Lena's
was
hired.
hired.
You find out later, Eleanor to kill Hawkeye, but even though she's there out of her own personal revenge, that part to me was a little weird. Like, I feel like it could have just been she was just there out of her personal revenge, not hired to do something she wanted to do anyway.
Well, I guess maybe that. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Ken.
Things can be two things, is all I'm saying. Like,
That's fair.
it's efficient. You get your revenge, and hey, you're going to get some money.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that makes that's probably you're probably spot on with that, Ken. Because I think for the movie though, because again, you may have people watching this who've never only seen like 3 Marvel movies. We're let's be honest, a few dorks who've seen nearly all of them at this point. So we kind of understand the lineage of this. But I'm sure there's people watching this who like, oh, Hawkeye, that sounds neat. So they need some sort of motivation. But you're right, this whole thing of you killed my sister would then come out of left field without any context whatsoever. So, yeah. But again, I think it's fine for me.
It's also the classic Marvel Phase 4 TV show problem where all right, we're in episode 5. We need to someone's backstage hitting the play me off button. So we have to wrap this up as fast as we can. It's like, oh, your mom did this. We have to bring in another person to set up another thing. We have to get rushed to the finale.
Every episode in this is setting up something else. So that tracks.
And this is the show that's one of the most egregious of it, because Loki is very much just about him. And I guess kind of Falcon and Winter Soldier, they bring in a few people. Never mind. I'm just talking out of my ass. WandaVision was they set up Monica Rambeau and White Vision and other things.
Every show probably sets up more stuff other than Moon Knight. Moon Knight doesn't really set anything up.
That's bullshit, but anywho.
I haven't
set up other stuff in the MCU exactly. It doesn't introduce characters you recognize every episode. That's how I want to say. That's fair. Okay. Because that's what I meant, is that this is bringing in cameos type things. I mean, She-Hulk that's all She-Hulk is, but She-Hulk's straight. But this was Moon Knight's more contained. That's what I want to say.
nuts. People love She-Hulk or hate it. There's nobody I've talked to that have said, "Oh, that's fine." People love it or loathe it. Not to get into that. I've not seen it, nor have I seen Moon Knight. I actually do want to see Moon Knight because
She-Hulk was fine. I expected more because like I really love the comics. Like I just wanted a lawyer show, and it kind of is that sometimes. And I love Tatiana Maslany. I love, like, my fiance and I just like loved Orphan Black, which is a great show if you've never seen it.
I haven't yet.
But like, as much as I absolutely hated the finale of She-Hulk, but the Daredevil episode is probably one of my favorite episodes of anything of this entire year.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. That's
good.
That's ringing praise.
Oh, and there is one thing I have to comment on this on Hawkeye that I wouldn't be right if I didn't. So when they're in the diner at one part, I laugh my ass off where she's like, "You need a new costume," and she draws the original costume of Hawkeye, and he's like, "I would never wear that. My wife would divorce me," and I'm just like, I'm like, I was upset that I don't get the costume, but at least there's a ref. I love the costume.
I'm pretty sure they filmed the scene of like when he was in the with the LARPers where he had something like that, and I am sick of the "isn't my comics costume such a joke?" It's just like, if someone didn't make that costume, y'all wouldn't be here. So like, please.
I mean, that costume is a joke. I love it, but it's
an iconic joke. And stop with the the comics dumb. Like half the movie costumes are dumb and over designed. Get over yourselves.
Agreed.
I mean, I get why they don't do his classic costume. I'm okay that they do his costume from the Matt Fraction run.
It's funny. I didn't think of that way, Blair. I'm glad you did though, because you're probably right. First off, Mike, I thought of you immediately. The second I saw the color purple, I was like, "Oh, Mike is just giggling with his feet dancing." But as soon as I saw that crude drawing, it was I thought of you immediately. Second off, Blair, it didn't strike me that way. It didn't strike me as kind of making fun, more of just Cliff having a natural reaction. However, I agree with you. I'm not a comic book fan. I've said it a million times. So I don't have that connection. But Marvel movies sometimes make fun of their core audience.
Yeah,
they make fun
all the time.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time. And again, that's me not knowing the references. So you probably see them more than I do. And I think that's a big failing in what they do. And I've said that Iron Man 3 does it. It's all over the place. And you and Ken and Mike, not me, you're the ones who kept them going when they were producing terrible, terrible movies in the 2000s and making garbage and selling properties. Like y'all were still buying the books. And the way that they make fun of that is pretty crappy. And so I totally understand.
It's so played out where they do it all the time. Like they've been doing it since X-Men, where it's like, would you rather have us go out with yellow? Yes, I want Cyclops with like trunks and a dumb strap that makes no point. Like, because it's excellent. Like, and I thought we were over that. Like, probably the only time I liked it was in Captain America: First Avenger when they do the US show. But every time they bring it up and they just keep doing it, like, oh, isn't this costume ridiculous? Like, who would go out like this? Like,
and even in Captain America,
superheroes.
Yeah. And in Captain America, they weren't making fun of it. It was just a natural part of the progression of the character. Like, hey, you're gonna put on this kind of propaganda. It's a band. This propaganda style,
outfit,
suits.
Yeah.
So everyone gets all hooray for the war. But it's part of the plot, right? And they weren't, I don't think, making fun of it. They were just updating. But I agree with you. I would love to see, like, I don't think the MCU would ever do this because, again, it won't connect to things. And I don't think the MCU knows how to do standalone stuff anymore, unless unless like a She-Hulk is or a Moon Knight. I don't know because I haven't seen those. They can't do that anymore because everything has to connect to the larger scale thing. I'd like to see like a standalone series where it's just like the X-Men in like original costumes doing original X-Men stuff that's light and fun. And again, this is coming from somebody who's never really read it, just kind of been around it. That might be something neat. That's really for fans. That are for the real fans that have been around for a while. Again, that's not poking fun of it.
I hope that Deadpool 3, and I think Hugh Jackman is the type of person who would play ball, where he wouldn't have signed that contract unless he was like, I get to put on like a yellow and blue tiger stripe outfit or like maroon and gold. Like, I have to put it on. Like, I've done this for 20 years now. Please let me actually be Wolverine, not just like man in wife beater and jeans.
And again, these things, like we said earlier, they're not, unfortunately, really made for you. They say it is, right? And there's elements of it, but this is for people like me who've never seen it and don't have that connection. So, and I think that's a shame. I really do. So I hope some of the newer series, I don't think they will. I don't think they can anymore. This has become so far removed, I think, from the source material. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, that I don't think that's going to be a thing. And that's a shame, because you all deserve stories that connect with you more closely than that.
I don't mind because I understand things have to change for adaptation, but change them without poking fun and saying how ridiculous the other thing is. Like, I understand that, like, because, man, when Falcon showed up in Falcon the Winter Soldier when Sam becomes Captain America, he is Captain America. That suit is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is ripped straight from Rick Remender's run. And I love that finale, even though that's like a 6-episode show to set up a costume.
Yeah, it is.
That they already set up at the end of a movie. Yeah. But I like enough of that. But, like, yeah, the joke is just played out. Don't do it anymore, guys. Y'all got some bad costumes. Like, Mike and I did the Avengers video game, and there's one of my favorite points is, like, Kamala is trying to make a costume, and Tony walks in and she's like, I look ridiculous. And he's like, yeah, we all do. It's part of the job. It's just how you, like, present it to the world that makes it believable.
Yeah, I think that the risk is that they try to make everything very tactical, and they try to make it make sense. When at the end of the day, none of it really has to make sense. It's that kind of abstraction. And I think what the comics probably do well is that it allows them to be a little more playful. And again, just iconic stuff should be cool because they're iconic. Why not?
Think about Spider-Man. Like, I cried when that costume showed up at the end of Spider-Man last year. Like, openly wept.
Wow. See? And it matters to you. It doesn't matter. I think it's cool. I'm like, oh, that's a neat looking thing. But for you, it matters. And I really wish that they would spend some more time, not to belabor a point, but that's a shame.
Yeah.
If I may, I don't know where else I'll be able to do this. And Mike, please, you won't cut this. I say this all the time.
I won't.
Cut my nonsense. I don't know why. There's throughout the show, there's a couple instances where they reference a Christmas radio show. And by the way, may I say that the music in this is great. The musical polls. They do Father Christmas from the Kinks, which is probably one of my favorite Christmas songs throughout the movie. There's also a song. This is so random. No one cares. Why am I saying this? Because I care. There is a, I think it's the scene where they're going into a warehouse. I forget. I should be more prepared. But there's a song called Power. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, I know this band. Who is this? And it's a band called Sweet Spirit. They're based out of Austin. The lead singer, Sabrina Ellis, she's like Austin royalty in this town, like music royalty. And it's one of their songs. I've met this woman, and I actually did an interview with her for an article. So I was very pleased when I heard Sweet Spirit's The Power on this. That's just a random thing. But anyway, this radio station, they say it's 107.6 Light FM. That was very cute for me and anybody from the Northeast, or especially that area, because that is not the radio station for Light FM. Light FM is 106.7, not 107.6. And that's the Light FM station that plays nothing but Christmas music for, I believe, the entire month of December. And that is what would exactly be playing, at a restaurant or a small cafe who wants to play Christmas music. Now, of course, you have Spotify and all the rest of the stuff. But that was very nostalgic for me. 106.7. They must have, I don't know how Marvel couldn't get 106.7 Light FM to actually sign on to use their radio station call letters, but whatever. That's just a neat little nugget that I picked up on. And by the way,
as a Canadian, as like you mentioned now, it's like I don't read comic. I don't know any of this, but like I have never been to New York. Like I'm just watching this. I never even paid attention. I never even noticed.
It's immediately. The second I heard Christmas music, 107.6, I'm like, that is very cute because the station is 106.7. And by the way, nifty little bit of knowledge if you're ever on Jeopardy. There is no such thing. You cannot have a 107.6 because every radio station ends with an odd number. So you will never in this country find a radio station that's a 0.6, 0.4. They're all a 0.7, 0.5, etc. The FCC does that to give space between the different frequencies. neat little bit of knowledge you didn't need, but now you have. And it's in there.
I'm okay with random knowledge you don't need. I have no problem with that.
Just a little thing. So it was just a cute little beat I noticed.
Okay. I mean, episode 4 is really just about Yelena showing up, and then it's about Echo realizing, because Hawkeye dresses as Ronan and approaches Echo and pretty much just tells her, like, yes, I'm Ronan, but, let it go, essentially. And then he also and he really points out that somebody else informed me that he was there, and that's why I went there, which then leads her to... Because also at the end of the episode, you get confronted with, you have a very small scene where you see that Eleanor was talking to Kingpin, and that's who, and that's when you find out Yelena was hired by Eleanor and all that stuff.
Was that quick question? Was that at the end of episode 3 or 4? I thought like 5 when they reviewed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That was 5 because
5. Yeah, I skipped stuff. Okay. Yeah, you're
3
fine.
is when 3 ends with Jack putting the sword to his neck, and then 4 is them. It starts with them having the conversation in the house, and I think then they do. So they break into Maya's apartments. I keep calling her Echo because the show never calls her Echo. Her name is Maya Lopez. I had to go look it up because I felt bad. And then Yelena shows up and they have the fight. And then episode 5 is kind of when things start like torpedoing towards the finale.
Yeah. And this is also kind of when you get to... one thing we haven't mentioned about that plays a big part in the show is the LARPers.
I was going to say, we keep papering over to the LARPers, which is such a... This is now, again, like Blair, you were saying how this movie kind of makes fun of the audience. How did you feel about the LARPers? Because LARPing is a thing that has been lampooned in media for decades.
See,
what do y'all think about this?
I was thinking about it, and that also feels like the way he goes in, he's like, oh my God, really? But man, Dungeons & Dragons is one of it is not just for that basement, the whole stereotype of the basement dwelling weirdo. I am a weirdo because I don't play Dungeons and Dragons, and I still have no interest, but everyone I know is obsessed with it. So for them to kind of still be doing the whole, oh, look at these guys, it's a little bit outdated. But it's fine.
What about you, Ken?
I mean, I used to LARP back in the day, which was a Tuesday. And I get it. When you're an outside looking in, LARPing is something that you have no idea about. And this is Hawkeye at his cranky old man phase. He's just I don't understand this, and I don't like things that are new and strange to me. But he gets his, grudging respect eventually. And I don't know, it does get old. It gets old.
I think a lot of it too is just to keep the show going, because if he went up there and was like, look, I'm Hawkeye, some really dangerous people are going to get after you if you give me that suit, I would just be like, I'm not playing this game. Just give it to me. And I would go up to that guy. I would bypass the front desk. Everyone knows who he is. He's on the news. He's an Avenger. They're not going to make him do this. It just feels like it's something to just kind of drag it out. And I like how they pay it off later on, because it made me think of Jake Gyllenhaal in Spider-Man Far From Home, where he's like, you can be the smartest guy in the world, but no one cares unless you have a cape and shoot lasers out of your hands. And then no one's listening to actual police and first responders until they dress up. And people are like, oh, those are costume people. We should go follow them because costume people are the heroes in this world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which also downplays, again, actual police officers and first responders. It's kind of really crappy. You have people have their opinions about police officers, but at the end of the day, most of them are trying to help. It was very borderline for me. I agree with you. I think fandoms are good. I do. I think fandoms are groups of people who have a similar interest, who connect in a community and do a cool thing that they love. And that's great. I mean, my show is all about people who do things and experience things that they love. That's what I do in my podcast, right? When those things become toxic and awful, that's where it tips over to the other side. The LARPing was just so pure and fun. I look at it, I'm like, oh, these people are really enjoying themselves. In the middle of looks like Central Park. The middle of the park, I guess a Tuesday. I think the movie it introduces it through Clint's eyes as what is this weird thing. I agree with you, Blair. But I think at the end of the day, it's very respectful. And I don't think it's there to say, look at this dorky thing these dorky dorks are doing. and now they're going to make Hawkeye the Avenger. Kate has pictures of him on her walls, in her mom's house, on her old bedroom, and we're going to make him do this dorky Dorkerson thing. Yeah, it's a little artificial, right? It's just setting up another flavor to it, but I think at the end of the day, it wasn't me.
It's such a minor thing, and it's stuff like this that really is like a splinter in my mind, where it's, did that girl get her embroidered bag back because it was so important? I need closure on that story.
There was no closure. Same.
Oh, it drove me crazy.
Yes, agree. Same. Did she get it back?
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
When did she get it back, Ken?
Hawkeye left it with Griggs. Is that his name?
Griggs. Yeah.
Grills.
Yeah, Grills. Yeah, Hawkeye left it with.
Papered over my brain. Okay, well, good. See, Blair? Whew, we can breathe a sigh of relief.
Blinking, you miss it, though, so I don't blame you.
You can breathe a sigh of relief, because you're right. I had the exact same thought. I'm like, please get that back from her. Please. So, anyway. But again, that's like a beat that really wasn't necessary. But you're right, though. I forget who said it, Ken or Blair, but the people they talk about, is anyone here, a cop, I think Hawkeye says. And the one lady's like, yes, I'm a police officer, right? And which is, cool. And he's like, I need something out of evidence. Do you mind doing a little light breaking and entering? And she's like, no problem. Again, hero, Avenger, you have a sword. You're on people's walls. Sword. You have a bow and arrow. You're on people's walls. Clearly you're good. And there's themes of that in here as well. The assumption that someone's good, Yelena is very big on that. Just because you have, I think that's Yelena who says it, but just because you have, you're on a billboard doesn't necessarily mean you're a good person.
I think it's Yelena. I like how Yelena really does kind of bring that to this too, to like Hawkeye's not a great guy. He's killed a lot of people. It's like, yes, he has. And I like how she kind of is a different force going against Kate, who's like worshiping Hawkeye. And you have Yelena who like despises him, partly because of something he didn't do. But I do like that the two corresponding things. I think it makes it good. I think it plays well.
I think one thing that we haven't really touched on is duality in this show. There's constant references to living in two different worlds. Maya looks at Hawkeye's hearing aid as a disability, saying that he has to learn to live in both worlds. Yelena is coming to kill Hawkeye. Maya wants to kill Ronan. So there's your duality of one person being two different things again. And like, it's something that they just flirt with the entire time, but never really reconcile. Like, you don't get, Hawkeye, being okay without his hearing aid. You just get it fixed at a quickie, like,
yeah, weird.
Like, link. Here's the doctor. Okay, it's fixed now. You get, the closure of, okay, Ronan's dead. Maya, move on. And you get I didn't really kill Nat. She did it herself. And Yelena's just like, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm going to go hang out with Kate Bishop. And like, you never really get any reconciliation for something that they bring out so much in the series. Like, they're just consistently referencing, duality, dual positions, and never really go anywhere with it. And that bugged me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair. No, that's super fair. I think, yeah. And I think that kind of lends credence to what y'all were saying, how this could be a little longer. I think a lot of these things kind of had to be truncated for time, because you have 6 episodes, and they're short episodes. I mean, they're an hour, but, honestly, 10 minutes of it are either credits or
even an hour. Like, episode 3 is 30 minutes.
Yeah, they're super short and very condensed. I wonder if that's due to maybe shooting in New York. It's extraordinarily expensive to shoot in New York. I think I remember hearing something like in Lincoln Center, it's like $25,000 a day clear out. Like, it's obnoxiously expensive. Something like that.
Disney not knowing how to make television.
That's fair.
Because like these shows
could be that too.
Well, because I mean, not Disney, but Marvel kind of not really. Because like with The Mandalorian, like that has a through line through both seasons, but every episode's like, okay, here is the adventure of the Mandalorian doing this thing, like a TV show. But these, like the first batch of Marvel shows, with the exception like What If, because that's like an animated anthology series, they feel like we filmed things, we're going to chop it off here to make a season. and I hope they get better with that later on. Because I guess like Andor, people love that.
I'm one of them.
I watched it last week on Sick Brain, so I don't really know how I feel one way or the other. I feel bad that Cassian Andor constantly keeps getting upstaged by a droid. But yeah, I think that's the show's problem, is that like them learning how to make television and then they're just producing too much content.
It's fair. They're
fair.
producing a lot of fucking content, so.
Overwhelming amount, I would say.
There's a report now that they're slowing down because they kind of they're getting a lot of feedback being like, yeah, slow down, guys. There's too much. No one can keep up with this anymore. And it's starting to suffer.
It really, like, Phase 4 has felt like the sophomore slump of the Marvel universe.
It's the anime filler arc is the best way I've heard it being described.
Damn.
That's pretty good.
Good way to put it, though. I mean, it is a lot. I mean, I have consumed all of it so far, but even I have gotten burned out where I'm just like, I'm not ready for another one right now. I still do it, but sometimes I have to wait until the show ends before then I go and sit there and watch the whole thing in a week.
Oh yeah, I can't watch them, one by one. I can't watch anything one by one anymore. Netflix has spoiled me. Even my beloved Great British Baking Show. I think it's almost over. I can start watching it now. Anyway, sorry, I'm outside the. Anyway.
All right, that brings us to, I think, the only thing we have left to discuss is then the final episode we haven't talked about yet.
We haven't talked about Pizza Dog yet.
Oh, yes, you're right. We haven't talked about it. You're right. Take it off.
I can't believe we're almost been like, I was thinking about that because Ken was like, oh, something we haven't mentioned. And I was like, the dog. And I looked at the clock and I was like, oh my God, we're almost 2 hours in. And we haven't talked about the best boy in the entire series. Pizza Dog is just the best. And I'm very glad that they got to meet the dog who plays Cosmo in Guardians of the Galaxy. It made me very happy they had a picture of 2 of them together.
Aww.
But that dog's also going to have some really bad farts if he's eating a lot of pizza like that. Oh my God, it's going to stink.
Mm-hmm. It's a very fair statement. I have a dog. I do feed her pizza sometimes. They do not smell good. She has bad farts. I mean, I thought it was funny having the dog because it's straight from the comics. I thought it worked well, in my opinion, with everything that they were doing. It was fine.
See, in the comics, though, like, Pizza Dog kind of almost served as a redemption for Hawkeye. Like, Pizza Dog's existence in My Life as a Weapon was a redemptive arc. Like, this is Hawkeye not choosing to, end a life, but to nurture it, to foster an emotional connection. And that's what opens them up more to the Kate Bishop experience.
Oh.
Pizza Dog here was set dressing.
Oh
Fair.
man, the issue where they do an issue of the comic from Pizza Dog's perspective, and it's all just in. Oh my God, it's amazing work. Like I can only imagine. I would love to see the script for that.
But no, that's fair because here it's just you're right. It's just there. So yeah, that's completely fair. All right, and then I think that brings us to the last episode. I think the last episode is also really good. It does a good job of bringing everything together because throughout the series you have Hawkeye being worried about the whole time. I don't want to get the big guy involved. I don't want to get the big guy, and I think it's a good payoff when you finally find out that it's Kingpin this whole time that he's scared of. That Kingpin is in charge of all this. And I think it works well how you have that. Like, I really like how Echo ends up realizing that Kingpin set up her father, and she's like, well, I'm, pretty much, she says, well, I'm going to take a break, but he realizes that she's turned on them. I thought that was kind of cool, the way that all happens, and everything with it like that. It's such a good final scene, or final episode, where everything comes together. You have Yelena show. Well, you were saying earlier, they end up like they have the stuff at the hotel where they get the LARPers involved at the conference, and all of a sudden you have people trying to snipe each other. You have them running through the hotel or through the building, which is just I thought was hilarious. I really, really like that stuff where Yelena's fighting Kate Bishop, but not really fighting her and trying to not kill her, and she won't let her go because she wants to defend her friend. I thought all that was just really good. I really liked it.
I agree. No, I agree. I think. Of all the episodes, I think this felt the meatiest. It's the finale, right? So of course it's going to be the meatiest. Yeah. When Kingpin was revealed, I thought isn't he a Spider-Man villain?
Right. Yes, he's a street level hero villain. Like it's largely with Daredevil. Anything that has to do with New York. I don't know if it's because like I follow just a lot of Marvel news, and I think it was heavily rumored, but like when he showed up, it wasn't exactly subtle. Because I know it's just like, oh, here's your uncle, and they have like a giant hand on young Maya's shoulder, and it's like you hear Vincent D'Onofrio ass laugh, and I was like, oh, it's Kingpin, and it's like, oh, there's a boss, and then it's like Fat Man Auto Sales is like the front, and I was like, oh, it's Kingpin, and then it's just like, here's the boss, and it's like, here's a picture of Kingpin. It's like, yeah, guys, we know it's not subtle.
But here's the thing. And again, this is why I think this conversation has potential to be interesting. I didn't know until they said the word Kingpin. I did not catch any of those things because I've seen him. I saw him in what was it, Spider-Verse, right?
Yeah.
And I had no idea that Private Pile was in the MCU at all.
And you also
Right,
haven't seen.
Daredevil.
You said you hadn't seen Daredevil, right?
No, I've never seen Daredevil.
So you also wouldn't, because he plays Kingpin in Daredevil, which again I think they're gonna like do a soft reboot. I really think it's gonna be a soft reboot when we get there.
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I think the way this story ends, because like, you know, you don't bring back Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin and then kind of end it on the way this does. There is a Daredevil story. He's in the Brian Michael Bendis era where he is blind. So I think that's going to be how it's going to play out, where him and Matt are going to be on a level playing field, as it were. And I could be talking out of my ass, but I think that's what they're going to set up. Because, I mean, she shoots him straight in the head. Although, and that's why I mentioned at the top of the show, is that Kingpin here has plot armor plus. Like, the guy gets, like, hit by a car, electrocuted, and I get he's the Kingpin, but he's also a man.
See, that was my question. I didn't know. So again, me as casual watcher, you know, I see him get shot with an arrow, look at it, grimace, and remove it. And I'm like, oh, I guess, does Kingpin have like super duper strength or
no,
like,
he's just a man.
Adamantium, whatever, bones? I don't know. So again, for me, as casual MCU person who knows nothing about these characters, I just kind of roll with he's just throwing her around. And I love the fact that he never like finishes her off. Like nobody ever tries to finish Kate Bishop off. Like again, Yelena could, like you said, easily finish her.
Killed her.
Easily, she without any question. But she, like you said, which is a very cool scene, just keeps batting her away like a fly. Like get out of here.
She wasn't important. I mean, that's the kind of the whole point, is that they don't see a reason to kill her because she's not important to them. She has no importance to them, and that's the thing. They consider her, not worthy of it.
Well, her whole life has been her just like killing people that she didn't want to. So now she's like, I can choose to save someone.
Wow,
I don't have to randomly kill this person anymore. I'm not under someone else's control I have to kill everyone to finish the mission. It's like, look, just get out of my way. Like, you're not important, and let's hang out after all this is done. Like, that's what I want to see.
Oh, I would love to see like a quick, like they just used to do like the Marvel shorts, like those little shorts of, between different movies and in the different phases. I would love to see a short of them just hanging out around the city, going to like a dive bar, and then getting a little hammered, going to the tree, all that fun stuff. I want them to have the day that Kate suggested.
Yeah,
during their chit chat. I would love that so much. Like, we couldn't be good friends now, and just go and have a hang. I think that'd be really funny. But yeah, that's a very interesting point. Yeah, she's choosing. I was paid to do a thing. I was not paid to kill you. Paid to kill Barton. And by the way, I want to anyway because I think she killed Black Widow, or think he killed Black. So all that I think is good and fine. This Kingpin thing, I was like, oh, that's neat. And my other thought was, I bet you the comic book people are be really happy because like
combination. I gotta say, to be honest, some people were happy, some people were upset because this Kingpin is kind of a joke compared to the Kingpin in the Daredevil show. A lot of people were saying, a lot of people were upset with that he got beat by Kate Bishop. But again, to also further another comment, this is her show, so of course she's gonna win, and she's a hero. Like, and that's just how this works.
In Daredevil, like, he's just fighting a man who's good at karate.
Yeah,
like this, he's fighting someone who has like explosive arrows and net arrows and all this thing. So yeah, he's going to struggle a bit more than guy.
Playing the
I
blind
mean,
guy?
he's really good at karate, but he's just really good at karate.
Yeah, I mean, because she beats him by blowing him up pretty much. So it's like that tracks. Like that's a fair statement versus like what him fighting a guy who just does karate.
And then
Yeah.
even by the end, it's almost like even explosions just make him look like Wile E. Coyote when like a TNT goes off in his face, where he's just like walking it off to his car. It's like, no, you should barely be able to walk.
You should be kind of almost dead.
Yeah, but he's not. So hey, I mean that's saying something right there that he's I also don't. I'm wondering because the last scene you see is Echo puts a gun to his head and then it goes off screen, pulls the trigger like you were talking about earlier, where he might be blind. I'm curious. I didn't think about that, but that'd be cool if that's the road they go. But either way, I'm excited to see what happens with. Like I'm looking forward to the Echo show and I'm looking forward to the Daredevil show, which we're getting. I'm looking forward to both.
See, I'm not sure if I really want, and that's a problem where, like, I get why they're using certain characters because it is important. Like, you have Echo, who is a disabled actress, and that's great because it shows a different side. And, like, Riri Williams in Wakanda Forever. These are great characters to put on the screen, but there's not a lot of source material to mine for the shows. But I guess that means they can do whatever they want. So maybe it is great, but I mean, I'm not really excited to watch Echo, but like, I don't know, surprise me, be excellent.
Oh,
Sure.
And to further what you said earlier, they are really toning it down next year. We only get 6 shows next year.
Only 6?
So yeah, they're tuning. And only one announced for 2024 so far, which is Daredevil. Everything else is 2023. Yeah, you get 2 in early 2023, 2 in mid 2023, and then 2 in late 23. So yeah.
In between that, you have Ant-Man, Guardians,
And the Marvels. But thankfully only 3. I'm glad it's only 3, and I can't wait for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to come out. Hope it's good and to be done and never have to see those damn characters again, hopefully.
Really?
I'm tired of them.
Oh man, the Guardians of the Galaxy may be my favorite part of. I think that's going to be the best trilogy of the entire MCU, and that's all on the shoulders of James Gunn.
That's fair. I'm just tired of Chris Pratt.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it for me too, is that I am tired of him.
He has some great moments in the holiday special. And
What? May I ask a semi-pertinent question, especially since this is a video game show primarily? Why do we all hate Chris Pratt all of a sudden? Like, why did popular opinion sour on him?
Isn't he an anti-vaxxer?
I don't know. There are some things, but and it's even like with Wakanda Forever, because one of the things I didn't like about that is that I heard things about the actress who played Shuri that she was problematic during that production. So everything they did with that character, and I'm not going to get into spoilers for a movie that's barely a month old,
Yeah.
where I couldn't connect with that character because I don't like her as a person. And I don't know with the Chris Pratt, I know it's a lot there, but I know James Gunn, when he cast the actor who played Vigilante, and I've said this before, probably on this show, like he did an asshole check. Like he asked Elizabeth Banks, who had that actor in Pitch Perfect, like, is this guy an asshole? And she said, no, he's great. And James Gunn is like, look, y'all say this about Chris Pratt. I work with him. He's a good dude. So I'm like, if James Gunn says so, man, that's fine by me. I don't care anymore.
For me, it's 2 things. One, I think I'm just tired of the actor. One, he's an anti-vaxxer, which kind of annoys me, but it's not. I'm just tired of him being in so much stuff. That's a big part of it. I'm just like, he's been in so many things. I'm just like, I don't need to see you anymore.
So it's like early 2000s Ben Affleck.
That's a big part. I'm just tired of him. And I really am tired of. I really hated Guardians 2. That's a big part of it. I thought that movie was god awful. You listen to my review where I bitch about it for 2 hours with them, with Bill and Mike.
So good.
I just did not like that movie, and that's really what soured me on Chris Pratt and really soured me on the Guardians was after that movie. It just wasn't. I love the first one. Absolutely love the first one. And the second one was just not my cup of tea, unfortunately. It was, the humor didn't work for me. And then Thor, Love and Thunder, I mean, they're in it for a little bit, but they're not really in it. They're just there just because, again, I still believe Guardians 3 is supposed to come out before Thor did, and then Disney was stupid, fired James Gunn, and led to all that bullshit. So That's my opinion with that.
And now he's become their greatest enemy.
I love that. Like, they never. I mean, I get it, but really, if you're gonna fire somebody, maybe you should, look at what not follow the Twitter idiots, essentially what they did. So.
Not to get completely off topic. I don't remember the Guardians 2. I remember being very lukewarm on it. The guy found it, pieces of it extraordinarily mean. And like you said, Mike, during that, I do remember you saying that everybody now in that cast is Chris Pratt. Like, everybody's trying to be Star-Lord. Like, it felt like there was no more individuality between the players. But again, listen to that show. That's a ways away. So give that a listen. I can't remember I know I didn't love it. Not nearly as much as the first one.
Mike, I feel I have to gift you a copy of Guardians of the Galaxy to play on your Steam Deck.
Oh, I mean, the only reason I haven't bought it yet, because I'm not ready to put it on the show yet, but I do really want to play it. I'm sure I'll like it.
It's really short, too. It's only like 15 hours long, and it is so good.
Maybe if everything works out next year, maybe I can find it. If it goes on sale for cheap, I'll buy it. If I see it again for $15, I'll buy it.
It's probably on sale right now.
It's $60 right now on Steam at the time of this recording.
Oh my god, really? Okay.
So
the season. So anyway, yeah, back on track a little bit. No, I mean, which is fine. I'm just starting to get a little hungry.
I'm actually hungry too, so I'm gonna go eat when we're done recording.
Same. So I think let's kind of bring it back. So final episode. Kind of talked about Yelena not really fighting Kate. We talked about Kingpin not really trying to fight Kate either. Just get out of my way. And everyone kind of tossing her aside like she's got nothing to do with nothing. We do need to talk about the final set piece, which
yes,
okay, listen, bafflingly, I found this very, very silly. And this is kind of when the movie, I'm going to keep calling it a movie. This is when the movie took a bit of a turn. I laughed pretty good at the complete absurdity of it. Completely and utterly absurd it was to have Hawkeye stuck in a tree, him going, oh, how do I get down? Hawkeye, you're an Avenger. Go down. It's a tree. Now, mind you, I understand it's the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree. It's monstrous. If you've never seen it, it's imposing. It really is a sight to see. It's one of those things, kind of bucket list.
I'm doing it now, 100%. A couple years from now.
If you go to the city, try to go mid-December. Don't go like the week of Christmas or anything, because you will not get. It's a sea of human beings. It's especially if at night you almost can't walk. It's really, really rough. So go like mid-December. You won't have too much of a problem. So cutting the tree in half by removing the supports that hold it up. Now, I don't know how this thing stays aloft, but it's a tree. Trees are designed to stay up. It's what they do. Now, mind you, it's not rooted to the ground. They probably have some sort of support. I have no idea. This thing falling and breaking really put a shock in me. Like, oh, this was old school Avengers. We cause more problems than we do fix them. We cause more damage than we're worth. I am now back on the side of, what was it, Ross, whoever it was, the senator.
Yeah, it's Ross.
I think it was Infinity War or whatever it was, saying, you guys cause way more destruction. I mean, I understand, sure, space slugs from space. I get it. You had to take care of that problem. But look at all this disaster, right? And you don't stick around to clean it up. You just don't. You just leave and let regular human beings clean up your mess. That's what this spoke to me. My first thought was, that's got to crash through that ice. That has to crash through the skating rink. Because the Rockefeller Center, when you look at the tree, I believe 30 Rock is behind it. So there, and I believe the gala that they're at is actually at 30 Rock. I can't remember, and it might have been to the like hotel-y thing that's to the left of it, but which is where like NBC is. And that thing crashes through, and I'm like, doesn't that have to go through the ice? Especially when they're doing like fire arrows and explosive napalm shots on the ice. Now, I don't know if that ice is solid all the way to the ground. I genuinely don't know. I'm assuming it is, because if not, it'd be a big lawsuit if all of a sudden, people are skating on it. And you can skate on the Rockefeller Center ice. You just go up and skate. I think you need to bring your own skates. I don't think they actually have them, but you can certainly do that if you like. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's when this movie got to the point where, okay, we're now in Marvel ridiculousness. 1 million tracksuits show up to fight our heroes. There's like 500 I want to say like 300 of them show up, and maybe a little large. And this is just a really fun scene of arrows and things blowing up and creative ways of dispatching people. and there's no stakes. Like, your heroes are going to be fine. No police presence whatsoever. The cops don't show up and say, "Hey, stop!" They just leave it alone. They figure, "Oh, an Avengers got it. We can just hang out on the periphery and wait for this to kind of just all boil over." So, what do y'all think about this kind of final scene of Hawkeye and new Hawkeye working as a team to dispatch a bunch of tracksuits? And by the way, while we were talking, Mr. Kenneth sent us a picture of tracksuits that you can get on Wish for like $10.49 now. And he sent this about maybe a half an hour ago. That deal was only available for another 4 minutes when you sent that. So your deal may have expired.
Oh, it was a while ago because we've been talking about that. Was it 10? Yeah, he sent that a while ago.
Yeah. So I would like to know, Ken, what the cost is now, and if you could put $300 in your cart. Now, I don't want you to spend $3,000 on tracksuit.
Right.
I'm curious how many you can get in your cart.
It's Wish. It doesn't mean they'll actually send it to you.
Yeah, that's fair. But I'm just saying, these kind of companies that are largely based over in the Asian market do typically contract out for larger amounts of work. And yeah, that's absolutely something that could happen now.
Fair. That's fair. And they probably have connections over there at the five folks at Abdosii, which is what instead of Adidas, is Abodisi. That's it. Five folks at Abodisi who have made these tracksuits instead of with the Adidas logo, probably like an extra line in it.
I love Wish. Sometimes.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. Anyway, sorry, I had to. I
really enjoy this fight. I do have one thought that I really want to mention about how they're murdering people left and right. And the part that really got me when the truck is about to hit them, they shrink the truck and she's like, "Well, how do we get them back to normal size?" And the owl takes away the truck. Those fuckers are dead.
Yes. They are very dead.
They are either going to stay small and the truck will fall and they'll be crushed to death, or more than likely it will rip the truck open and they'll be eaten by an owl. That's like a terrible way to die.
It's not great. It really isn't great. And
it bothered me.
Well, the good news is you'll have to see when the owl drops you, because it'll happen when the CGI animator turns off his computer and the owl goes away, because that is one of the worst CGI owls I have seen. Now, not for nothing, I haven't seen a lot of CGI owls. I'm not an expert, but oh boy, that CGI drawing comes in and grabs grabs the PIM particle. I don't know.
It just really hit me. I'm like, you just murdered these guys in a terror. You just fed them to an owl. Like, did they deserve that?
You like
Maybe
legitimately
I watched too much Batman lately. Maybe that's it. I've been watching a lot of Batman where I'm like, that's not what Batman would do.
That's like legitimately out of like Dishonored, when you have the bad choice and the worst choice, and you chase the worst choice. The good choice is actually the worst choice when you don't kill them and they're stuck in the clock tower.
Ken, what did you think of the final fight?
Dialogue being like, "Oh yeah, Scott said they're only temporary. They'll grow back in like 10 minutes." And then the owl grabs them and it's like, hopefully they grow back before the owl gets them. There you go.
Yeah, I
just wrote your problem away.
All right, thank you. Ken, what did you think of the fight?
I thought this fight was absolutely the big dumb, and
yes.
I loved it. Yes. I was here for it. This is exactly what it needed to be.
Great.
It. By this point, I was watching them as they came out. By this point, I had already thrown away all right, this is going to be my life as a weapon. By episode 4, I was like, okay, this is going to be something else. This is going to be Disney. This is going to be the Disney version. Whatever, it's fine. I'm dealing with it. And this end fight was just so dumb in all the best ways. And this really brought it home to me that this is the closest thing Marvel will likely ever get to a Shane Black movie. It takes place on Christmas. It's got great buddy cop vibes. There's ridiculous situations that end in even more ridiculous resolutions. This is basically Marvel's Lethal Weapon. There, I said it.
Okay.
Well done. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, man. You said this is the big dumb, and I am very much so here for big dumb, especially during the holidays, which I overdose on big dumb. I just love all of it.
So I just want to comment on that. So this mimicking Shane Black is better than the Shane Black Marvel movie that he actually did.
Okay, that's right. I forgot he did Iron Man 3.
Yep, that's a movie, all right.
Yeah.
Stupid Iron Man 3.
Mm-hmm. I think I put it on the shelf though when we watched it. Ugh.
You did.
I really enjoyed it that watch through. I don't know why.
Why am I still on this show with you? You did put it on the shelf. You were like overjoyed about it.
Yeah, I've been meaning to rewatch it to see what I think, but I got nothing.
Because we're talking about Shane Black. That was, I think, the episode where I said to you, Mike, I don't think you're saying how much you liked it. I think you're saying how much you didn't mind it. You didn't like it. You just didn't mind it. It didn't bug you. And that's not a litmus test for a shelf, sir.
Yeah.
Anyway. No, I dig that. Yeah, it's a Marvel Lethal Weapon is a very, very apt description, Ken. That's good.
Yeah.
Or
it's what I needed it to be.
Oh, Blair, what did you think of the final part?
It was fine. I think by this point when I was watching it, it's been a theme for me all year with a lot of products or projects that have come out where people love them, but I'm indifferent to them, and I think there's something wrong with me. And Hawkeye was kind of the start of that, where everyone was like, every week after week, everyone was saying that they loved it. And my fiance and I are like, are we watching like a different show? Like, what's wrong with us?
Nothing.
And by the end of it, I was just like, okay, it's cool to see Vincent D'Onofrio come back, but then he's there and then just gets like bulldozed literally and is gone. Yeah, I don't know. It was fine.
Okay. Any last things we say before we move on to shelf stacker box?
Maybe just one quick note because
we talked about the ending with the you're right.
Let's stop at the ending. The ending is after their big battle. Of course, we have a little overlong scene of Yelena and Cliff kind of just battling half-heartedly. It felt like it kind of mimicked a little bit of when Black Widow and Cliff had to fight when he was under Loki's control, like just kind of half-hearted. And didn't feel like she was really trying to end him, because I think at this point she could have very easily, because he had just done battle with 300 people in tracksuits. Like, I don't think he was in his best shape. They have this kind of resolution where she finally admits to herself that her sister sacrificed herself. Shouldn't be too much of a surprise. It's Black Widow. They have this very tearful scene. I didn't find it terribly tearful, but I guess the actors did. Great, fantastic. I did find it tearful when he was when he goes to put on the Ronin suit, which we don't talk about again, and fight. Oh God,
Echo.
Screwed up her name. Echo. Thank you. We didn't talk about that whole sequence.
Yeah.
Maya, thank you. To fight Maya, he's kind of like talking to her. He takes his hearing aid out and he's talking to her like, "Nat, I need to do this thing, et cetera, et cetera." I got a tear on. That was like that caught me. And I didn't really care about Black Widow falling off a cliff, but it's
not me either. I've never been a huge Black Widow fan. I just don't really like Scarlett Johansson that much as an actress, and I don't really like Black Widow that much as a character. So the whole movie and her finale, I was like, oh, it's okay. I'd rather have Hawkeye survive.
I just really like Scarlett Johansson.
Well documented. I like Scarlett Johansson in certain roles that she's done some good work in the past.
Yeah, Jojo Rabbit's great.
She's very good in Under the Skin. She doesn't speak much. She has like two lines of dialogue, but it's a very good movie.
Either.
Good. It's a bit of a horror movie, Mike. It's weird.
That's why I haven't seen it yet.
She's naked quite a bit. Not that inspire you to.
That does a little bit actually, but
I'm sure. So anyway, so him having that conversation, leading into this final moment with Yelena. And kind of just going their separate ways, her realizing, kind of coming to terms with her grief. Like, this is a step in the right direction in her grief of losing her sister, So that's pretty neat. They go back to the farm, right? Meet up with the fam. They're there in time for Christmas. Hooray. And then they kind of have that final moment where they're burning the Ronin suit on this very tiny charcoal grill. What are you cooking on that, Bart? Come on. Clearly you're not a chef.
Yeah, because that was a little odd.
There was something. Okay, so the Ronin costume was in the apartment that was on fire.
I thought the same thing. Go ahead.
So I thought the costume was somehow fireproof.
Same.
And he's like, okay, well, whatever. Just throw more fire on it, and then we'll leave. And then he's just like, okay, well, I can just take care of this on my barbecue. I'm like, question mark? Why didn't you just do that in the burning building?
Why were you trying to get
like,
in? Yeah.
Ronan died in the burning building. There you go. But then you don't have a show.
That's true. I thought the exact same thing, and I'm like, hey Barton, you do realize that when you put lighter fluid on things, if it's flame retardant, like clearly it is in that apartment, if the lighter fluid just burns off and then it stays there, like looking at you stupidly. Yeah. I don't know. And is the Ronin suit anything special? Like, is it like armored? Is it made out of goofy Marvel material? Like, or is it just like a suit?
Well, we would know that if they ever gave us more than 5 minutes of Ronin, but no, we can't have that.
So what's the answer? I don't. Is it like a thing?
I have no idea.
Probably.
No one knows. That's fair. Yeah, that's same thought. Nicely done, Blair. Thank you for reminding me.
I just know I had his first appearance in comics. That's all I know. A long, long time ago for $1 or $3.
Yeah, and then it kind of just ends on that, and then of course we have the final Rogers the Musical, the entire opening song. And have you guys ever seen a Broadway musical? I know you haven't been to New York,
no.
But maybe
I don't
something of that.
Yes, I'm actually quite a musical fan.
Okay, cool. Okay, so
I've watched like movies. Like I watched Spirited on Apple TV Plus, which is fantastic, by the way.
See, I haven't seen Spirited. So anyway, so Kenneth, as a fan of musicals, as a connoisseur, perhaps, I don't know if you'd label yourself as such. What did you think of Rogers?
First off, putting this on Broadway, this reeks of off-Broadway. Like,
yes,
I know that Mark Shaman did the work, did the song. You see him as a conductor. It's very wonderful. But, like, come on. This is not Broadway-level songs. Like, it's not. Like, the performance, sure. Performance is Broadway caliber, but the quality of the show, just now, again, based off of one song. This is presumably about Steve Rogers' whole life. So it's likely that there is, an entire, after intermission act about the Sokovia Accords and, having to fight through everything. And, like, this is one song. You can't judge a musical off of one song, but I damn sure will and say nope.
I think I'm in the nope camp as well, because you're exactly right. This is very off Broadway. This is like 8th Avenue theater, like this is like on the side streets of Broadway, like a 46th Street as opposed to 42nd. It's it's fine. The production value is what gets it, right? The really cheesy production value. There's not much of a set, that's what those shows do. There's not much of a set. They kind of focus on the performances. Again, the costumes are really cheesy. The Hulk, come on now. He's wearing a green shirt with green paint on him, please. And he's going smash with a piece of styrofoam. Clearly,
and Ant-Man is in the show. Why? Ant-Man wasn't there. Hawkeye.
That was funny, though.
Yeah, Ant-Man wasn't there. But people like Ant-Man, so you got to have him in your musical. Yeah.
Okay.
It was catchy enough, though. The song was in my head. The song did what it's supposed to do. It was it got in my skull. I don't know. It was like a $50 ticket on a Tuesday and nothing else to do. Maybe, orchestra seats for $50. I don't know.
All right. And I think that brings us then to Shelf Stacker Bach. And Ken, what about you?
I like this show. I like it a lot. I can't shelf it. It's going on the stack.
Okay.
Even with Kingpin, and I love me some Kingpin. I love Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. This is a match made in heaven as far as casting goes. It felt like nobody was used as well as they could be in the show. The direction was good. The writing got bogged down in trying to be too cute. And I like it fine, but I don't love it. So, Stackaroonie.
Okay. Oh, what about you, Blair?
It was funny leading up to the show. I was thinking of the whole shelf stack and box thing, and I feel there needs to be like a streaming equivalent of like, don't recommend watching it again and maybe leave it in the queue for another time. But no, I'll put it in the stack, I guess. I didn't love it when it came out. I'm pretty sure I've explained why throughout the course of the past 2+ hours. I just think it's, for a show based on a character who's a marksman, it's very aimless.
Ooh, nice.
And the characters, like I like Haley Steinfeld, the actress from Bumblebee and The Edge of 17. And of course, Florence Pugh is great. And yeah, Kingpin showing up is cool, but I wanted to like this a lot more than I did, and I probably would not have watched it again if not for being on this great show.
Okay. All right. And what about you, Bill?
I think I'm actually going to shelf this. I really enjoyed my time with it. I had a blast. I could see myself watching this kind of every year, like as a little Christmas or holiday, little holiday smile, and to get that, I think for me, I have no connection to the source material. I only have a connection to the movies, so whatever Marvel has fed me, that's what I know. So for me, the performances across the board are really good. Haley Steinfeld is wonderful, or also known as the actress from True Grit. She was wonderful in that. She's fantastic. I love, I just really, not to go over it all again, I really enjoyed the connection, and I that was what really sold me on it. The action is fine, and I think my brain washed over the plot holes because I was having such a good time with likable characters in New York, which of course for me is always bonus points. Whatever, I'm biased. I'm gonna shelf it. This might be a little something I'd rather watch this every year than Elf. As much as I like Elf, everywhere I turn, someone's trying to show me Elf. Everywhere.
You made me watch Elf last year.
I like Elf a lot.
I did too, Ashley, unfortunately.
I like it a lot. I don't know if I need to ever see it again. This might replace Elf as it's just a yearly kind of, hey Jane, let's watch Hawkeye. She didn't see it with me. I think she'd enjoy it. So yeah, shelf it.
Okay. All right, I'll go last. I'm also going to put this on the shelf. I really enjoyed this show. I remember as I was rewatching it for the show, I remember, last year when I saw this, I said, I'm going to cover this next year for Christmas. And we did. But I really enjoyed it. I had a good time with the show. I thought it was very entertaining. It's a very good Christmas show. And one thing that we didn't mention, at the end of every credit is a Christmas song when the credits play. And I really enjoyed it. This is a perfect show to watch in December when you're getting ready for Christmas. You watch it once and you forget about it the rest of the year, and maybe you come back each year. But it's a Christmas show, 100%. And I'm putting it on the shelf, and I'm so glad we finally covered it. And I'm so glad that Phase 4 is done, and I'm covering more stuff finally, because it feels good. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And Blair, where can people find you at?
You can find me on at comicbookvideogames.com. That's where I do all my writing. Just recently, I don't know when this is going to come out. So
this one.
I published an interview with Chris Sutherland from Playtonic about working on the Amazing Spider-Man for Game Boy. And maybe by the time this comes out, you'll see the big thing that I just found out about the weekend of this recording that I'm really excited about. So yeah, stay tuned. December
22nd, this should be dropping. Everything goes right to my plan. All right, and Bill, where can people find you at?
You're really good at this point. The podcast, A Gamer Looks at 40. I think, Blair's been on, Mike, of course, and Kenny have not been on yet. So we'll have to fix that in the new year. Right now, I'm in the midst of a Zelda retrospective that's about 2 months in. It has about 2 months left to go. I didn't realize how this long is going to be. It'll probably finish up in February. So by the time this is released, I'll have wrapped up this year's bit of it, and then starting in January, we'll be on Ocarina of Time. Our friend Helena is going to be on the show. I think I'm starting off January with her story of Ocarina of Time and her personal connections to it. It's a really fun and good interview, if I say so myself. So A Gamer Looks at 40, wherever you listen to your favorite or eighth favorite podcast.
And if you enjoyed the show, you can hear all our other MCUs. We went through all the movies up to Shang-Chi so far, which is Shang-Chi's already out at the time you're hearing this. God, I think it's 25 movies at MCU or something like that. God, it's a lot. So yeah, go check out all that giant stuff. We have over 400 episodes on our catalog. You can find everything on Podbean if you can't find what you're looking for on Spotify or iTunes. Podcast Addict's another way to pull up all our episodes because there are a ton. Because I keep producing because I'm insane, as I say many times on the show. And I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Fear. You can follow her on TikTok. And if you want to support the show, we do have a Patreon for as little as $1. You can vote in the Patreon poll. And at the time that you're hearing this, the Patreon poll is Mike's Christmas gift. That's what I'm calling it. You get to help me decide which thing I'm going to cover. Either Eternal, Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire movie, Amazing Spider-Man 2, or Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Because all those I have to cover before we can do the Amazing Spider-Man No Way Home in my world. I feel like I need to cover all that stuff first. So please help me choose something so I don't have to choose myself. So yes, that's what that is. And we have a Discord. You can join and chat with us. Please join. You can also suggest things. I started a new channel on Discord where you can suggest things that I'll cover, whether it will happen or not. I don't know. But hey, it's a channel on there. So join us and comment. And I look forward to seeing more people in our Discord. All right. And I think that's every. Oh, yeah. Please follow Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. We are on YouTube. And we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
So long, bro.
Bye, bro.
Oh, that's good.